Teenager Lee Yoon-sung is very indignant at the court verdict. Why was he awarded community service? South Korea has very bad laws. This is all because he does not have a mother, and the judge can mock the orphan. Where can you see this? 200 hours of community service for one harmless robbery of a jewelry store. The judge calmly looks at the guy. In his practice, he has never seen anything like this. Yoon-sung grabs a chair and launches it at the judge. Missed. The lawyer tries to calm the teenager down, but to no avail. The judge says that in 15 years of work, he has encountered something like this for the first time. He sternly tells Yoon-sung to pick up the chair and put it in its place. Yoon-sung responds by making an obscene gesture to the judge. Of course, this is taken as an insult to the legal system without the desire to correct itself. Defendant Lee Yoon-sung is subject to Juvenile Law No. 9. The bus arrives at a place where the consequences of a bad judicial system are collected. Lee Yoon-sung also gets off the bus with the rest of the prisoners. He is surrounded by very gloomy faces. He was brought to the Yangcheon School of Information and Communication, which was nicknamed the Yangcheon Reformatory School. Fraud, theft, violence, disrespect for the law. All juvenile criminals are collected here. One of them with a scar on his face recognizes Yoon-sung. He shouts that he made a mistake. It's Yoon-sung from Sangjun High School. The warden tells Han Ji-hoon to stop and pushes him aside. Ji-hoon yells at Yoon-sung to come to Ward B after roll call. A man approaches Yoon-sung and says that Ji-hoon is not a very nice guy. He came here for violence and blackmail. Are he really friends with Yoon-sung? Yoon-sung is silent, and the man says that the guy is as stupid as his friend. Lee Gwak-hyun, Yangcheon Correctional Facility officer, asks if Yoon-sung is the same guy who caused a scandal in court. He hits the guy over the head with a stack of paper and asks why he did it. I really wanted to get here. Gwak-hyun puts his hand on Yoon-sung's shoulder and says that his task is to rehabilitate people like him, and from now on they will meet often. Yoon-sung replies that he wants to talk to Mr. Chief. One of the guys asks Ji-hoon how he knows this guy. He replies that he studied with him at a school for delinquents. He asks what Yoon-sung was famous for. Yoon-sung came to meet Ji-hoon. He said that he was very glad to see him. He says the school they attended was a lot of fun. He still remembers Yoon-sung trying to kill himself in the school bathroom, and because of him, Ji-hoon and others were accused of school violence. Yoon-sung, after a long silence, says that Ji-hoon is right and he came here to see him. In the boss's office, the employees go home and thank Gwak-hyun for agreeing to replace them, and he sits quietly in a chair and remembers the conversation with the new guy, who told him that he knew that Gwak-hyun committed the rape. On the 6th morning at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he met an underage girl whom he met on the app. He deceived her by saying that he had a BMW car, and lured her into the car number 4439. It all happened in the motel alley in front of the park. The warden could only ask the guy, "Who is he? What's he doing here?" He replied that he was looking for someone. Okay, a couple of minors. Ji-hoon didn't even realize it, but he received an instant and strong knee to the face. Yoon-sung was really looking for those who ruined his life here and found one of them. He continued to beat Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon screamed for help to get rid of the crazy bastard. One of his accomplices rushed to help. Yoon-sung, without letting go of Ji-hoon, kicked the attacker. He abruptly threw the guy far back. The attackers ran away screaming for someone to call the warden. Yoon-sung was struck from behind with a stick. It was Ji-hong who suddenly attacked him. He shouted that no matter how hard the bastard trained, he would still beat him. He hit him from all sides. Yoon-sung could only put up a defense. Ji-hoon was already celebrating his victory, but a sharp blow to the face made him scream. Yoon-sung hit the bully again. He grabbed him by the sleeve and fell to the ground with him, performing the technique. He grabbed the enemy and he could not get out. Ji-hoon's leg was about to break. Yoon-sung calmly said that, why would he train for Ji-hoon? It's just that someone very famous taught him to give. Ji-hoon thought that the guy really worked out with a professional. At this time, his leg made a cracking sound. Ji-hoon screamed in pain while Yoon-sung stood and looked at him. Ji-hong shouted that how can you use the shin grab technique on a living person? Yoon-sung silently leaned towards him, and he grabbed Ji-hoon's second leg. He asked Yoon-sung not to do this. Yoon-sung replied that he just learned how to fight. Ji-hoon started shouting that he was asking for forgiveness for everything he did. Now he regrets that he was bullied at school, that he insulted his family and made him an outcast. He asked Yoon-sung to let him go, because if he breaks both of his legs, he will never be able to walk. The warden, who was brought by the beaten hooligans, was already rushing to take revenge on the incident. Yoon-sung remembered how he asked to be taught how to fight, and when asked why he needed this, he replied that the laws were bad and many were avoiding responsibility. He wants to take revenge for everything himself, and so far he has succeeded. The guard shouted for the guy to stop, but it was impossible to tear the avenger away from his victim. Ji-hoon was in a very bad state. The most common crime among juveniles is assault. as well as damage to property. Ji-hoon continued to shout that he was asking for forgiveness for everything, but it did not help him. The warden tried to reason with Yoon-sung, also to no avail. Finally, the Avenger released his longtime offender and told the warden that he had come here to take revenge. But not Han Ji-hoon, who was lying on the ground with a broken leg. Yoon-sung said that what Ji-hoon did was nothing compared to what his main offender did. It was discussed in the cells that a crazy person had broken Ji-hoon's leg. One of the prisoners heard the name Lee Yoon-sung and thought about it. Park Sang-chul, 18 years old, former amateur kickboxing medalist. It was for him that Lee Yoon-sung came. Sang-chul studied at school and was very curious. He often liked to conduct experiments on school students. Can the student tell the difference between apple juice and urine? His curiosity was of a completely different kind than that of normal people. The one who was bullied the most was Lee Yoon-sung. One day, when Sang-chul found out that Yoon-sung would have no one at home, he wanted to go to him. His accomplices also went with him. They turned everything over in Yoon-sung's apartment, but unfortunately they didn't find any money. Yoon-sung could not resist the impudent teenagers. Sang-chul saw that Yoon-sung was shaking all over and decided that he had a fever, and he gave him a pill, which the inexperienced Yoon-sung took. He had no brains at all at that moment. The consequences of this pill were very bad. Yoon-sung lay there unable to move, and the teenagers laughed at him. He saw them in the form of terrible monsters. You can't take just any pills. It seemed to him that he was running through a meadow, to the next world. Sang-chul strangely gave him a towel. He took me to the microwave and suggested putting a towel in the oven. The explosion destroyed Yoon-sung's apartment. Firefighters and police arrived very quickly. Yoon-sung was rescued and ended up in the hospital with burns. The police came to him. They started asking him questions about how the towel ended up in the microwave. Yoon-sung was still on the pill and did not remember what he answered to the police. In addition, he was left with a scar after this. When he arrived at school, he was called out by Sang-chul, who laughingly said that it was cool. The explosion was stronger, which Sang-chul saw on YouTube. Besides, Yoon-sung should be grateful to him because Sang-chul pulled him out of the apartment. If you've ever been bullied, you know what's scary about it. When you meet someone you can't talk to, that hopelessness when you don't know where to start a conversation. Imagining this fear causes people to give up. Yoon-sung said yes. Sang-chul saved him, thank you. At the temporary residence center, Yoon-sung was met by his mother and grandmother. The mother said that she received a call from the police station and was told that it was her son who set the apartment on fire. The other teenagers confirmed this. They said he took some pills, and in general he did everything himself, and they are not to blame. Sang-chul said that he saw Yoon-sung set the house on fire, and they are all minors. They are 13 years old and they will not be punished. Yoon-sung's mom said that now they won't get insurance, and she could be sued for insurance fraud. They were also awarded compensation to their neighbors. Their house was destroyed. They were doomed. The guard led Yoon-sung to the cell, and Sang-chul wondered if this was the Yoon-seong he knew. The supervisor brought Yoon-sung with a stack of towels to the laundry room, and he said that the new guy should be received politely. If he has questions, let them answer him kindly. One of the cellmates asked Yoon-sung if he had sold out to the warden for taking such care of him, and immediately got kicked in the face. He fell to the floor and did not move. Everyone else rushed towards Yoon-sung. There were sounds of blows. Sang-chul finally recognized Yoon-sung. He laughed loudly and started pointing his finger at him. He was still an idiot. Yoon-sung said that there are methods to defeat professional kickboxers. Sang-chul asked what these methods are. Yoon-sung replied that Sang-chul was still just as curious and promised that he would tell him everything about how to win with one finger. Sang-chul laughed and asked in a related sense, with one finger. He admitted that he doesn't catch up with what Yoon-sung says at all. Yoon-sung put the towels on the floor and suggested that Sang-chul have a good brainstorm. Sang-chul froze in a silent question. Yoon-sung took out a spray can and stacked towels. He pointed it at Sang-chul and pressed with one finger. A stream of air freshener splashed into Sang-chul's eyes. He screamed that he was blind and in pain. At the same moment, Yoon-sung kicked his opponent in the groin. Pain pierced Sang-chul not only in his eyes, but also below. Yoon-sung stood and listened to the screams of his offender. Sang-chul was going through hard times. He couldn't make a single move. He could only yell that it was mean to hit like that, and it was prohibited in all types of martial arts. Yoon-sung didn't listen to him. He just hit Sang-chul from all sides. Sang-chul could not even put up a defense. All the blows hit the target. The heel hit him on the foot, and then the guy received a crushing blow with his knee. One of the basics of fighting is if he is protecting the upper body, aim for the lower body. Yoon-sung looked at Sang-chul and thought that he was in a lot of pain right now. If the enemy is defending the lower part, aim for the upper part. Yoon-sung learned this well. He said loudly that Sang-chul looks very good now. Blinded and beaten, Sang-chul swung with loud bad words and tried to hit back. Yun Sung deftly dodged. Sang-chul waved his arms with a loud cry. Tears flowed from his eyes and he could not open them. He hoped that if he waited, the pain in his eyes would subside, and then he would be able to open his eyes and show the impudent boy who was boss. With his experience as a kickboxer, he would only need to throw one punch, but all his swings of his fist fell into emptiness. Finally, it seemed to him that his opponent was nearby, and he raised his fist. His hand fell on the towel. Yun Sung held a towel wrapped around Sang-chul's hand. He wrapped it tightly and pulled sharply. Sang-chul could only wonder what the towel was doing on him. His arm twisted and he fell to one knee in pain. He screamed again. Now his arm also hurt. He couldn't move, and received another knee to the face from Yun Sung. Yun Sung grabbed Sang-chul by the head and forcefully pushed his face into the floor. Sang-chul was lying covered in blood, and Yun Sung asked if he liked the microwave towel. Yun Sung remembered the events of the past that brought him here. His grandmother was in very bad condition after all the events. The doctor said that at her age this happens. The shock of her burning house was very strong. Mom told the doctor that when the grandmother saw her grandson's face, disfigured by a scar, her condition worsened. Sang-chul lay motionless on the floor, and Yun Sung looked at him. Sang-chul stirred and began to show signs of life. He said that he was able to wash his eyes with his blood, and now he can see everything. And without getting up from the floor, he kicked Yun Sung, who did not expect this and flew off on his face. He fell, covering himself with his hands. Sang-chul stood up, rubbed his eyes and admitted that he felt really shitty. All this happened because he did not see anything. But now he took a fighting pose and was about to respond properly. Yun Sung sat on the floor and silently looked at his opponent. Sang-chul said, "Let the boy prepare to die." He threw a kick, but Yun Sung was able to dodge it. Sang-chul swung his legs and shouted that he would smash the bastard against the wall. He only looked like a target at first. Now he will show what he is capable of. Yun Sung was pressed against the wall. A formidable opponent was approaching him. Sang-chul laughed and said, "Doesn't this remind Yun Sung Woo of his school days?" Every time Yun Sung was beaten at school, he would sneeze and moan. And it was very funny. He promised that school beatings would seem like minor troubles to Yun Sung. Yun Sung remembered his coach asking him where he was going to fight. He replied that he was in a juvenile colony. He thought about it and said that Yun Sung must be sure that he had blinded the enemy with the spray, and advised him to put a blanket on the floor during a fight. Yun Sung did just that. Now Sang-chul was standing on the blanket. Yun Sung teased Sang-chul a little, and he now does not notice what surrounds him. Yun Sung attacked Sang-chul first. He made a tackle and began to throw him to the floor. Sang-chul slipped on the blanket and got entangled in it. The enemies grabbed each other. Once again, events from the past came to life in Yun Sung's memory. Here, Sang-chul and his friends are watching a video about the fire in Yun Sung's house. The whole school, at Sang-chul's instigation, calls him two-faced because of his scar and demands that he leave school. Everyone is sure that he is a drug addict who burned down his house. Sang-chul is going to broadcast with Yun Sung's grandmother, who is in a coma. The fury with which Yun Sung knocked down Sang-chul helped him knock such a bull to the floor. He grabbed him and raised his fist. The fist methodically descended on the bastard's face. Blood splashed in all directions. Sang-chul could only swear heavily and call Yun Sung different names. Yun Sung grabbed Sang-chul's little finger, and he screamed that he would kill the bastard. Yun Sung broke his opponent's finger. Sang-chul yelled even louder, "Where is the administration?" Yun Sung kept hammering Sang-chul with his fists. Sang-chul was already screaming for this little bitch to stop. He began to ask for forgiveness. Yun Sung remembered something else. How Sang-chul entered his grandmother's room and filmed her. It seemed like a good joke to him. Therefore, he did not stop the beating, but only intensified it. Sang-chul's hand rose up helplessly. He said he was really, really sorry. Yun Sung stopped. Sang-chul lay there and was in very bad condition. He was slurring his words and asking what he did wrong. He once again asked the bastard who beat him like that, "Why?" Yun Sung was dumbfounded and couldn't answer. Sang-chul moaned that they were all children back then. At this age, everyone plays in jokes. Children have a lot of innocent fun. Yun Sung picked up a handful of clothespins from the floor, and he stuffed them into Sang-chul's mouth. He said that he had long noticed that Sang-chul's problems were caused by his mouth. Therefore, he should not talk a lot to maintain his health. Normal people should talk, not animals like this. There was no need to tell the police that I personally saw Lee Yoon-sun set fire to his house. And he hit Sang-chul again. I remembered my suffering mother. And he hit harder again. One might wonder, why hold on to the past? With time, everything will pass. Everyone lives like this. Lee Yoon-sun will answer everyone. Go to hell and stay. He didn't like it and he learned to fight. 5 months later, Yangcheon Correctional School. Yoon-sung holds Sang-chul in his grip. He asks another prisoner to check on Sang-chul, who has passed out for the 4th time that day. He has a total of 898 fainting spells. There will be 900 soon. They cut him down every day. You won't envy Sang-chul. The responsible officer of the Yangcheon Correctional School, Kim Jong-ok, comes to hear the noise. He shouts, "Who is misbehaving there? Number 203? And he gets the answer that it's not him. They answer from the cell that number 204 is rowdy, and Kim knows this very well. Yoon Sung watches from his cell. Kim Jong-ok shouts that everything must be quiet, and he leaves. On the way, he turns and shouts to the warden that he doesn't understand why number 204 receives such special treatment. The warden says that this is the chief's request, although this is wrong and has gone very far. But in less than a week, this idiot Lee Yoon Sung will get out of here. You need to be patient a little. Yoon Sung says that he will leave this place in 6 days. If he wants to continue with his plan, then he needs to prepare. There is an announcement on the radio for those who have a date today. Those who have visitors must proceed to a visiting room under the direction of teachers. A young woman is walking down the corridor. She takes off her sunglasses and says she's hot. It's October and it's still hot. All eyes are on her. She asks if her Lee Yoon Sung is okay. In the visiting room, the girl looks at Yoon Sung and smiles. Yoon Sung asks her to stop smiling. He feels awkward, and the girl asks what is wrong with a beautiful sister smiling at her brother. She continues that they are pretending to be brother and sister, and they have to smile to look like a family. Yoon Sung asks why she came in a formal suit then. He tells her that Park Sang-chul is finished. He is now a complete idiot. The girl laughs and asks, is Yoon Sung feeling relieved now? Yoon Sung tells her not to talk nonsense and give him materials for the next one. The girl says that the next one moved to Gangnam and lives there. His family is very rich. He is the great-grandson of a hospital director. At school, Cho Young-bum was class president. The teacher praised him for his good grades. All the teachers thought that he took good care of his classmates and was a good student. None of this was true. He helped the teachers, distributed assignments in the classroom, and brought work to the teacher for checking. He noticed a ring on the teacher's finger and asked where it came from. Teacher Kim said that Teacher Oh proposed to the most beautiful teacher in the school. Young-bum congratulated the teacher and left. On the way to class, he thought that the teacher would become a married woman, and licked his lips very disgustingly. He is now 18 years old, and a student at Seha High School in Gangnam. Yoon Sung's fake sister said that in addition to having good grades and winning various competitions, he is also a member of the student council. Yoon Sung asked what Young-bum's usual travel route was. The girl replied that it was a school, an academy, an educational cafe, and a home. He is absolutely pure. She showed Yoon Sung the photo and asked if it was true that this was the guy he was talking about. She even checked his characteristics, but found nothing. The most wonderful reviews about the guy. Yoon Sung looked attentively at the photo of Jo Young-bum. When Sang-chul was filming Yoon Sung at school with comments that he was the culprit of the fire in the house, Young-bum listened silently to everything. He listened to Sang-chul's story that Yoon Sung did everything on drugs and was completely crazy. He leaned over to Yoon Sung and asked if it was true that he had an older sister. He asked how old she was and whether she was beautiful. Yoon Sung moved the photograph towards the girl and confidently said that this was the bastard who ruined his life. He continued that Jo Young-bum can be a model student for others. Only this bastard is very good at pretending to be a normal person. Yoon Sung returned to the cell and was informed that Park Sang-chul had missed lunch and was sitting in the corner all day. Yoon Sung grabbed Sang-chul again and said that skipping lunch is not good. Sang-chul told him that he asks for forgiveness and understands that he was wrong. Yoon Sung pressed Sang-chul harder and reminded him that he did not allow him to talk. Sang-chul was diagnosed with a speech disorder, motor coordination disorder, and difficulty concentrating. Park Sang-chul has lost his former intelligence. It's not good to bully and offend people at school. 6 days later, Lee Yoon Sung was released from prison. The same girl, whom he called Miss Joanna, was waiting for him at the entrance. Yoon Sung's mysterious assistant, Joanna, said that he should call her sister. She asked if he was ready to go right now, and she brought Yoon Sung straight to the makeup artist, who was delighted with Yoon Sung's face and said that it was simply a pleasure to work on him. Joanna also praised the work of the makeup artist. They picked out a wig for him and covered his burn scar. The result exceeded all expectations. Lee Yoon Sung, 18 years old, is going to Seha High School in Gangnam. Yoon Sung appreciated his appearance and said that it turned out well. The makeup artist said that the guy doesn't have any good makeup at all. Joanna agreed with her. She added that this is normal. At his age, everyone behaves this way. At that time, Cho Young-bum kept dreaming about a teacher. The thought of her getting married drove him crazy. Little pervert. Someone shouted that there would be a new student at school. Young-bum listened. The students said that they saw the newcomer and he was very handsome. The teacher entered the classroom and introduced Yoon Sung to the students. Yoon Sung greeted and said his name. The girls looked at him without taking their eyes off. The guys looked less friendly. Yoon Sung went to his seat, and the teacher said that tests are coming. You need to take your studies seriously. Everyone must prepare diligently for the tests. Hyun Sung's path was blocked by a pimply fat guy, who said that the way the Khan introduced himself to the class was very annoying. Hyun Sung saw two guys at the back of the class laughing. The teacher has already left the class. The guys behind them shouted to the fat guy to speak louder, otherwise not everyone would hear. He said he would try. Behind him, the students gave him advice on what to say and how to say it. The guy behind him was hurrying the fat man in an aggressive manner. Hyun Sung did not waste his time over trifles, but immediately kicked the impudent guy. The second rushed to the rescue of his comrade, and he also got punched in the face. Hyun Sung prepared for a fight. His eyes were full of determination. The beaten guy shouted that a crazy bastard had appeared in the class. Hyun Sung didn't say anything. He just hit. He grabbed his opponent's arm and threw him to the floor. The whole class watched Hyun Sung deal with the bullies. Hyun Sung brushed off the dust from his school uniform, looked at the guy who was lying on the floor and said that if his performance seemed annoying and simple, he can repeat it. His name is Lee Hyun Sung. He is 18 years old and loves reading and playing sports. And who he hates is not here. Jo Young Bum was not in class at that time. He went to the teacher's room. Rumors quickly spread throughout the school that the new kid had kicked the asses of Park Sang-ho and his cronies on his first day. Young Bum and a student carried work to class and heard everything. The girl said that everyone would only talk about the new guy who caused a commotion. Young Bum replied that he was not interested in hearing about another bully out of nowhere. He added that he wants his school life to be quiet, and he doesn't care who fights with whom. Hyun Sung was met in the toilet by a crowd of guys. One of them asked Hyun Sung who he was, and whether it was true that he beat up his juniors. Is he some kind of athlete? Hyun Sung looked at the guys silently. High school students stood near the doors of the toilet and did not let anyone in. Suddenly the toilet door opened, and a falling body pushed the guard. He did not expect such a blow. Hyun Sung eagerly beat the guys who threatened him. He kicked one and sent him flying backwards, and the other was punched in the face. There was a real massacre in the school toilet. The guys were getting hit and yelling that Hyun Sung was a bastard. Hyun Sung grabbed the main bully by the ear, and he could not free himself. All his friends stood there and didn't know what to do. Hyun Sung said that they are now in Gangnam, and his opponent has all branded clothes. He continued to beat up the hooligans and said that he was jealous. If he had money, he would also buy such a shirt. A huge figure of a guy appeared behind Hyun Sung, who asked him who the hell he is. It was Kim Sang-wook, 19 years old, third-year gang leader. He said that he came to see who knocked him down as a junior, and here was some little kid who was about to cry. Hyun Sung attacked Sang-wook, and the audience started shouting that they need to call the teacher. Young Bum watched this whole picture with his mouth open. Sang-wook with a huge black eye yelled that he would kill this bastard, and he was kicked again by Hyun Sung. Young Bum left the printouts on the girl and ran. He told her that he had something to think about, and that she should go to the teacher herself. Sang-wook approached Hyun Sung with a bandaged face, and he told Hyun Sung to follow him. He led him to the room in the building where Young Bum was sitting. Cho Young Byum greeted the new guy warmly. He said he saw him knock out several students. Hyun Sung was silent. Young Bum said that the guy is good at fighting, but what about studying? He said that he is a sponsor of students who fight well. He asked how much Hyun Sung wanted. Just let the guy tell you how much he needs. This building is owned by Cho Young Bum's family. They have several others like it in Gangnam, and the hospital is there too. Hyun Sung listened to Young Bum and remembered the past. How Young Bum asked him if his house really burned down, and where does he live now? And he sympathized that it must be difficult in the temporary shelter. Perhaps his family needs money. Hyun Sung did not forget this even for a moment. He said that there was a reason why he wanted to meet Young Bum. He came all this way to see him. He told Young Bum that he was Lee Hyun Sung. Does Jo Young Bum remember him? And thought that he wanted to kill him more and more. Cho Young Byum turned pale and began to remember something. He couldn't believe that that loser Lee Hyun Sung was standing in front of him. He reached for his hair because he remembered that Hyun Sung had hair of a different color. He said that this can't be true, and it's not the same Hyun Sung. Hyun Sung threw away Young Bum's hand and said that he was that Lee Hyun Sung. And I thought that this plan started with deceiving Young Bum. He continued that he was the same one that Young Bum bullied while he was streaming on TikTok. Sang-chul streamed and said that he wanted to tell everyone what a cruel scoundrel Lee Hyun Sung is. Many of Hyun Sung's namesakes are already being teased in schools, but it's not Sang-chul's fault that their mothers named them after this loser. Young Bum was present during this ugly stream. At the present time, Hyun Sung asked Young Bum if it was true that he was in the same gang with Sang-chul and the others. And does Young Byum imagine how annoying this was to Hyun Sung? Young Bum asked if that was the only reason he pestered him. Hyun Sung replied that of course, and if Young Bum pays compensation, it will console the guy a little. He said that he heard that Young Bum is rich, so let him prove his sincerity. He hopes Young Bum didn't ramble about her sponsorship. He can start there. Young Bum cleared his throat and said that this was all very funny. Yoon Sung has the nerve. Does he want to be on equal terms with him? It seems that Yoon Sung is good at more than just fighting. He said he liked it and suggested we go downstairs. This building belonged to his father, but Young Bum ran everything here. On the second and third floors, there are educational cafes. The fifth floor is a hotel with single rooms. Sometimes he rents them out to children who have run away from their families as a shelter. On the ground floor, there is a regular cafe and an underground sauna. If Yoon Sung gets tired of studying, he can come here and rest. A huge man came out of the sauna. He asked Young Bum if he just arrived. Young Bum politely asked the guy, whose name was Kyung Min, if he had been to the sauna. Yoon Sung listened as Kyung Min asked who this guy was, and Young Bum told him who he was. Ken Min said that this new guy has the same name as that loser, Lee Yoon Sung. Yang Byum said that he was surprised too. He continued that this is completely different. He fights well and has a lot of arrogance. So Yang Byum thinks of giving him a job. Yoon Sung asked Kyung Min if he knew him, and why he was asking for a fight when they first met. Ken Ming didn't understand. This bastard is crazy, why is he talking to him like that? They exchanged remarks in the style of, let's go out and sort it out. Young Bum abruptly stopped the incipient quarrel. He told them to stop immediately. Otherwise they would never see work. Both guys stared at Young Bum. He said that he would give Yoon Sung some screening test because he doesn't trust him 100%. He needs to go to one place and bring the children there. The girls were sitting on the street of the evening city. Yoon Sung approached them. They said that they had never seen such a handsome man. Yoon Sung told Young Byum that he did everything. The teenagers are at the appointed place. He told the girls he would give them shelter and took them to a hotel with single rooms on the 5th floor. Young Bum asked if Yoon Sung told them about the sauna, and he replied that the girls said they would come. Young Byum said that the hotel on the 5th floor is actually used as a shelter. This is something like a shelter for runaway girls. He praised Yoon Sung and said that he could go with Kyung Min, who would tell him what to do. Yoon Sung thought that he needed to get closer to Young Bong, but what next? He remembered the conversation with Joanna when they said that Jo Young Bum was a meticulous bastard. To become someone he trusts, he needs to be in the same gang as him. Joanna said, why can't they just lock up Young Bum for an act of violence? Jo Young Bum is the person who always has an escape plan with him long before the disaster. He's a thorough and very careful scoundrel, and they need to completely bury him. At this time, Ken Ming brought him to the computer room. 2 people were sitting at the computers. On the monitor was a driver's license with a photo of the girl Yoon Sung brought to the hotel. Ken Min said that you need to choose some kind of ID. They can't mess with it all day. The employee said that this certificate was already ready. Ken Min asked when the release date for the vehicle was set. He replied that in 3 days. He told Yoon Sung that they are making a fake ID first. The moment teenagers arrive at the shelter, they give them false documents. Then they use them and rent cars in the children's names. They then sell the car to an illegal dealer, and the children remain in debt to the car rental company. Moreover, these youngsters can borrow a lot of money. If their parents have insurance, the gang may loan them money and use the insurance as collateral. Ken Min continued that in this way, these innocent children would already owe them 100 million won without even knowing it. Then they start whining that they just spent time at the orphanage. They are high school students. And then the gang gives them a choice. First, their parents must pay this amount, which is the simplest. The second, Yoon Sung guessed, to go into slavery to the gang. Yoon Sung thought that the punks who brought him here didn't look like they were working for a salary. They're probably all in debt. Their expensive things are fake. Kyung Min said that he was shocked by Yoon Sung's intelligence, how quickly he guessed everything. Yes, he's right. Everyone who was in the orphanage at least once owes a debt to Yongbon. From family-bound teenagers to adults, everyone will do whatever Cho Young Bum asks. He alone controls everything in this area. And the third lesson is for girls. Ken Ming licked his lips. Yoon Sung knew that Young Bum preferred older girls. He remembered his sister, and the way she walked accompanied by Ken Ming, who told Yoon Sung that his sister is very beautiful. That's why Yoon Sung is here to personally send all the villains to hell. He thought that Choi Kyung Min deserved his punishment a long time ago. His revenge must begin with him. Now he can laugh as much as he wants. Today is the last day of his vile laughter. Kyung Min showed Yoon Sung a contract in which the teenagers agree to be granted temporary asylum. Kyung Min told Yoon Sung to go to the new guys and sign a contract with them and take their fingerprints. Yoon Sung read the contract and realized that on the surface, it was simply an asylum agreement. But it was cleverly mixed with fraudulent loan closures. If you do not read and sign it carefully, this document will send you on the express train to hell for life. If the victims are young and beautiful, then they will be able to repay the debt soon. Yoon Sung entered the girls' room with a fraudulent contract. He tossed them the contracts and told them to put their fingerprints on them. The girls said that they were going to leave soon. Besides, their parents always told them not to sign any papers. Yoon-sung listened silently. He knew it wouldn't be that simple. The girls insistently said that they would not sign anything, and in extreme cases, they would call the police. Yoon-sung thought that it was impossible that the gang would give him a simple task. They want him to get the prints anyway. The girls stood their ground firmly. He turned and walked towards the door. The girls looked with interest, and said that as soon as they mentioned the police, the handsome guy immediately went home. But Yoon-sung closed the lock from the inside. The girls screamed in fear. Why did he close the door? Screams were heard behind the closed door. Min rushed down the corridor shouting what this crazy son of a bitch was doing there and demanding that they bring the keys. He burst into the room and saw that one girl was lying on the floor, and the other was being strangled by Yoon-sung. He turned to Min and said that it was no big deal. He just knocked the girls out. One of them strongly resisted, but still left her mark on the contract. Min thought that this guy was a rare psycho. Cameras were specially installed in the room to monitor how he completed the task, but he didn't even talk. He simply strangled 2 girls. Where do they raise such bastards? Yoon-sung thought that everything worked. A test that Jo Young-bum came up with just to test him out. Yoon-sung knew from the very beginning that there was a camera here, and these girls are adult actors who were hired. The test has come to an end. Hyung-bong said he was sorry if he upset Yoon-sung. But due to the nature of their business, trust is most important. Therefore, they needed to make sure of the guy for sure. But now Young-bum clearly understood that he liked Yoon-sung, and they'll get along well. Yoon-sung thought that in order to lure Young-bum out of the hole, he had to act like a scumbag. Young-bum said that they are all working together now. Min and Yoon-sung came to the girls' room. I turned off the light. He put a red film on his phone, and throughout the room, surveillance cameras became visible, hidden from prying eyes. He began to teach Yoon-sung how to position the camera to have a good view of the girls. Yoon-sung was inside Cho Young-bum's gang, and the crime was about to begin. He finished all the preparations for what he would need to do. Kyung-min said that Young-bum is a genius. He created this place to squeeze out different people. He was a genius since childhood. He committed every possible crime related to the internet. In the past, he had an incident with a loser whose name was the same as Yoon-sung. All the bullying against him was initiated by Yong-beom. These were his ideas. Young-bum never comes forward. He manipulates people behind their backs and turns them into idiots. Yoon-sung knew that Young-bum was not the type who liked to get his hands dirty with blood. Min continued the memories and said that that loser had a sister. Yoon-sung interrupted his partner's memories and said that for some reason the camera did not turn on, and he asked Min to see what was wrong. Min saw that the cable was not connected. Yoon-sung holds it in his hands. Kyung-min suspected something and raised his hand to strike, but Yoon-sung intercepted his hand. He hit Min in the elbow with his knee. Min's arm bent unnaturally, and he threw him to the floor trying to be quiet. He wrapped a cable around Min's hand, and he said that he was relieved that Min is the same bastard as before, so the guy can stick to his plan without any regrets. Kyung-min yelled that Yoon-sung was breaking his arm. Yoon-sung responded by saying Lee Na-hyun's name. That was actually the name of that loser's sister. Yoon-sung was wringing Kyung-min's hand, and he was yelling, "What does that bitch have to do with it?" Yoon-sung leaned over to Kyung-min and said that he would now tell him an interesting story. Lee Na-hyun is his older sister, and he is that loser Lee Yoon-sung, the younger brother. And now Min can laugh again. Min was no longer laughing. There was a 3-year difference between Yoon-sung and his sister. Yoon-sung was smaller and weaker than his peers, and therefore his sister often helped him out. She strongly supported her brother during those difficult times. Before everything happened, after the arson incident, the family moved from temporary housing to the annex of a government institution. Despite the fact that it was a semi-basement with poor conditions, it was a huge success that the agreement with the victims went smoothly. And his sister lived in the hostel for a long time. Mom asked what Yoon-sung was doing at school, and she didn't believe that he could take drugs and set the house on fire. She thought it was his school friends who told him to do this, that it would be fun. Yoon-sung didn't know if his mom would believe him if he told her everything. Lee Na-hyun, Lee Yoon-sung's sister, 17 years old and a sports college student, walked into the room. She arrived as soon as she heard about what had happened. She looked at her brother's face with horror. She was the pillar of their home, a student with a cheerful personality and beautiful appearance. She was calm even in this situation. The girl asked about her grandmother, and her mother replied that she was in bad condition due to mental trauma. Yoon-sung looked at his sister seething with anger and could not say a word. At school after class, the teacher asked Yoon-sung to go to the staff room and get the printouts. He took out his phone and started asking in the chat if he could do this. Recently, whatever he did, he needed to get permission from the chat. All his classmates were in this chat, and the person who issued permission called himself Frodo with glasses. He brought printouts to class amid mocking comments from students. He also had to get permission to go to the toilet. He was the carrier of all the bags in the class. His sister came to his school just when a group of classmates beat her brother. She rushed to her brother's defense and attacked the offenders. She was so angry that she lost her mind. In addition, it was difficult for middle school students to defeat a high school girl. They escaped. Yoon Sung felt relieved when he saw his sister, but Young Bum also saw her. He was delighted with her. Yoon Sung had a terrible feeling. His sister entered his room and read the chat message in which everyone was mocking her brother. He said that this is not what she thinks. These are just jokes of his friends. The sister hugged her brother tightly, and she said that now everything will be fine. He has an older sister. At this time, Ken Min appeared near their house, and the sister asked, "Is he the bastard who started the bullying?" Kyung Min replied that he dropped out of school and knew nothing at all about Yoon Sung. He is simply carrying out an assignment. He was asked to escort Lee Na-hyun to a person. Young Bum was sitting in his father's car. He thought he was well prepared, had good cologne and even breath freshener. Jo Young Bum was excited. An adult girl, especially the sister of a classmate, was interesting for a guy who had just entered puberty. The appeal of being with an older woman was very exciting. Naha opened the car door. He introduced himself as Yoon Sung's close friend and said that he knew a lot of good things about his sister. Naha did not listen to this nonsense. She grabbed Young Bum by the jacket and demanded that he admit that he was the same Frodo with glasses. She threw him out of the car and onto the ground, and she asked if his parents knew that their son bullied other children. She added that how could the boy have a car? So dreams of intimacy with an older woman turned to dust. Young Bum didn't know what to do. Should he apologize or run away? But he decided not to retreat and stand his ground. He asked her if she knew the law about juvenile offenders. No matter what they do, they will not be punished. By attacking him like that, she would only harm her brother. Then he received a strong blow to the face. The girl beat him and shouted that the brat had gone completely crazy, and she would bring him to his senses. He said that they can do everything and nothing will happen to them. Today he will check if this is true. She hit Young Bum heartily. She beat the crap out of Young Bum. He was covered in blood. Naha looked into the car, where Young Bum was sitting with a swollen face, and she said that she called the driver to take him home, so let him get his ass out of here. And she warned that if he touched her brother again, she would tear the brat to pieces. Young Bum felt complete shame and an overwhelming sense of humiliation for being beaten by a woman. He leaned out of the car and shouted to Ken Min, who had just stepped outside to catch the girl. Kyung Min rushed to carry out the order, and Young Bum shouted that she dared to humiliate him. He started the car and drove towards the girl. Ken Min barely managed to jump out from under the wheels when the car crashed into a tree. He screamed at Young Bum that he was a crazy bastard and almost ran him over with that bitch. Naha thought that the boy had really gone crazy. Young Bum shouted that she dodged the car this time, but now she won't be able to do anything. The girl was in shock, could not move, and Yong Byom directed the car at her feet. After this incident, Yoon Sung's sister lost both her legs. She took up swimming, but soon died in an accident. Yoon Sung asked Kyung Min if he remembered this episode now. Kyung Min asked if Yoon Sung came back to take revenge. His hand crunched treacherously. He asked if Yoon Sung would kill him. Ken Min screamed in pain. Yoon Sung said that he would not kill. There is a limit to physical violence. But he came here to ruin their lives. At that moment, Young Bum received a message on his phone. He read that his account was blocked. To obtain information, he needs to visit the nearest bank branch. He thought it was some kind of phishing, internet fraud. Then several more messages came that all his accounts were blocked. Yong Byom couldn't understand what was happening. Yoon Sung continued to hold Kyung Min on the floor and said that he would tell him the first part of his plan. Ken Ming will be found dead right here. Ken Ming howled. Yoon Sung wrapped the cable around his hand and continued so that Kyung Min would not misunderstand him. He won't kill Kyung Min. Jo Young Bum will because he's really pissed off. And now he's yelling, "What the fuck and what's going on?" and looking for those to blame. Young Bum screamed so loudly that his parents came running to his room. They asked their son what was the matter. Young Bum tried to pull himself together, and he asked for forgiveness from his mother and father. He told them his grades had slipped a little. He did not expect this and therefore was very surprised. The father said that he was already studying a lot. He would better go for a walk and relax. The parents decided that at their son's age, all children are like this and everything will be fine. Young Bum twisted with rage. Kyung Min yelled that there was no point in Young Bum killing him. Yoon Sung recalled that Kyung Min gave him a passbook before leaving, and he played a little trick on her. All bank accounts are linked to it. Young Bum accepted Yoon Sung's work and gave him a book, saying that his salary, bonuses would be calculated on it. This book is in the name of a homeless person, and the police will not be able to track it. There is nothing to worry about. The gang deleted all the transfer histories, but Yoon Sung was able to restore them. It turned out that Kyung Min had embezzled a lot of Young Bum's money. Therefore, all accounts are now associated with Ken Min and are now blocked. It turns out that Yoon Sung wrote about the death of the account user, so the accounts were blocked until clarification. Yoon Sung knew that these accounts were made under false names, but Yoon Sung, with the help of Joanna, made it so that they all belonged to Kyung Min. Young Bum will never know the reason why the accounts were blocked. And who will he suspect? Yoon Sung said that he is giving Kyung Min a chance, just let him choose wisely. Young Bum will not let Kyung Min go so easily. If he tells him about Yoon Sung, then the money he stole from Young Bum will come out. This is how it ends for him. Sometime after communicating with Yoon Sung, Kyung Min met with a man nicknamed Knife Joe Young Bum. He beat Ken Ming as hard as he could in the basement of the house. It was Kwon Chan-soo, 19 years old, 4th generation of Koryo mixed Mongolian. Kwon said that he knew from day one that Kyung Min would betray them. He had no right to do anything with the accounts. Young Bum stood nearby. He said that there was a traitor in their business and Ken Min was the main suspect. Only Ken Min's accounts were blocked, and it happened in one moment. How can Ken Min explain this? Kyung Min recalled the instructions Yoon Sung gave him. Ken Min had to pretend that he didn't know anything. He told him to just shut up and do as he says. Then everything will be fine. Yoon Sung went into the basement where Young Bum and company were. Without saying a word, he began to kick Ken Min. The blows did not stop. Even Kwang was worried, but Young Beom told him to wait. He said that Yoon Sung is new and acts very decisively and interestingly. Yoon Sung unhooked himself from Kyung Min, turned to Young Bum and asked if the bastard Young Bum was going to drag him into this trouble too. Young Bum was speechless, and Yoon Sung pulled out a package from Kyung Min's pocket, and he said that this guy is a drug addict, and the whole operation could fail because of him. Young Bum went nuts, and Yoon Sung said that his mental abilities are weak, since he put the drug addict in charge of all the money. He continued that it was all because of Choi Kyung Min, and he hit Ken Min again. Kyung Min thought he had gotten involved with a crazy bastard, and how Yoon Sung was going to fix the situation by making him a drug addict. Young Bum asked what Yoon Sung's intentions were. He has no reason to be upset. Yoon Sung replied that Young Bum himself told him that it was a safe account, and now he could lose all the money from it. How is Young Bum going to take responsibility for Yoon Sung's money if he loses it? Young Bum asked, is it because of money that Yoon Sung yells like that? He replied that he loves money very much. Young Bum replied that if anything happens, he will compensate for everything, and invited Yoon Sung to take Kyung Min's place. Kyung Min realized that this was Yoon Sung's goal, to trample him and take his place. The plan was perfect. Even Ken Min admitted that this guy is a genius. He used Kyung Min as bait to take advantage of Jo Young Beom, who was full of doubts. Kwon stopped Young Bum. He said that this guy seemed suspicious to him. They say that the eyes are the mirror of the soul, and the eyes of this bastard are full of deceit and anger. Kwon Chang-soo, 2 meters tall, is like an absolutely impenetrable and indestructible wall. He approached Yoon Sung and said that he would never trust this psycho. Lee Yoon Sung already foresaw that he would not be able to avoid this fight. He said that if Kwon is a little bigger than him, he thinks he will be scared. He remembered his teacher telling him what to do if he faced a much larger opponent. Now Yoon Sung will try to use what he was taught. He put the hood over his head and prepared for a fight. With his next move, he quickly closed the distance between himself and Kwon, and he grabbed him. Kwon realized that the grip was weak, and although he cannot strike, he can grab the insolent person by the clothes, tear him away from you and hit him. He noted that Yoon Sung is too dumb, but Yoon Sung quickly got out of the hoodie and jumped back, and instantly prepared for the attack. His teacher told him that if he faced a large opponent, he should always close the distance first. Let him grab your clothes and quickly get rid of them, and start hitting the blind spots that will appear, because his clothes in the enemy's hands will interfere with that. Yoon Sung did just that. He landed a hard knee to Kwon's face. He needed to take it down with one blow, because when you fight a giant, there may not be a second chance. Blood sprayed from Kwon's nose. During the blows, Yoon Sung told Kwon that he was trying to quarrel with him because he was new. Kwon fell to his knees, and Yoon Sung raised his leg to strike and shouted, did he really look like an easy target? Young Bum yelled for both of them to stop. The opponents froze and thought what to do. Continue or obey the order. Kwon promised that he would kill the bastard. Yoon Sung walked away from Kwon and said that he does what the boss orders. Kwon was beside himself, and Young Bum thought that Yoon Sung was a good worker. He said that he liked Yoon Sung more and more, and could take over all the affairs that Kyung Min was in charge of. Kwon just groaned. He yelled that you can't trust this bastard with eyes like a zombie. Young Bum replied that Kwon should do what the boss orders. Yoon Sung came out of the room and thought that the situation was dangerous now. He didn't think Kwon would survive such a knee strike. He decided that he needed to be much better prepared in the future. At school, the teacher gave homework and said that the tests were next week. She told Young Bum to come over to her for a minute. She heard that Young Bum got 100 marks on his practice exam and thought that was amazing. Young Bum said that there was nothing special about it. Hyun Sung watched Young Bum. Young Bum is the perfect college student. To be precise, he behaves like an ideal student. He clearly separates his public life and work, and lives a wonderful double life. It's like a fortress wall. He is actually a gangster but maintains a respectable appearance at school and at home. And he enjoys it. Hyun Sung handles all his dirty errands. He told the gang guys that now he will take Ken Min's place. He said he hasn't figured it all out yet, but hopes everything will work out. Young Bum received his test results, and the teacher said that he was in 10th place in school. The guy replied that it was only thanks to her work. He looked into the teacher's eyes and said that all the credit goes to her because she teaches very well. All the school children paid attention to these two. The lesson began. The classroom door opened and the teacher appeared on the threshold. Who said that he needed to talk to Young Bum? They went out into the schoolyard, and the teacher asked the guy why he did it. Young Bum asked what's the problem. The teacher showed him the phone and said that he asked not to make public the fact that the guy had ready-made tests with answers in his hands. There was an article in the school chat where an anonymous person wrote that he wanted to tell how the tests ended up in the students' hands. A file with evidence was attached to the article. Young Bum widened his eyes and asked if the teacher had ever given tests to anyone else, and he told him not to talk nonsense. He said that he didn't give them to anyone except Young Bum. And what should he do now if the teacher starts having problems? He won't drown alone. Young Bum swore that he wasn't the one who told everything. Hyun Sung listened with interest to this dialogue between teacher and student from around the corner. Young Bum was just saying that he pays the teacher well. Joanna told Yoon Sung recently that this teacher is a real bigwig in this business. It was she who posted all the data on the school website, and they left everything to public opinion. Young Bum told the teacher that he needed to delete this article before many people saw it. And Yoon Sung was already working with the teacher. He told her the news, which made her eyes darken. Joanna asked him how he would leave everything to public opinion. Will he send everything to the media? Yoon Sung said that it wouldn't be that much fun. He decided to use the most dangerous method available in South Korea these days. While Young Bo and the teacher were deciding how to get out of this situation, he approached the teacher and asked if she knew that Jo Young Bum installed a hidden camera on her desk. Recently, Young Byum installed an automatic diffuser on the teacher's desk in the staff room. The teacher thanked him very much. The guy replied that when it runs out, let the teacher tell him and he will change it for a new one. A hidden camera was inserted into the diffuser to monitor the teacher's every move. Yoon Sung said that Young Bum wants to know her every move. The teacher decided that she needed to tell the police everything, but Yoon Sung dissuaded her. She may suffer from this herself. Young Bum's signature trick is to make the victim look like a criminal. For now, let the teacher remain silent and let Yoon Sung decide everything. Now Yoon Seong needed to cut off Young Bum's right hand, Kwang. They gathered in the office and discussed who could have posted such an article on the school website. Kwon said that it could have been either a teacher or some excellent botanist. Kwon could have dealt with it with his fists and knocked out the truth. Yoon Sung said that he has never seen anyone dumber than Kwang. This will only make the situation worse. Kwon immediately rushed at the guy with his fists, but Yoon Sung did not pay attention to him. He told Young Byum that he had figured out the IP location where the letter was sent from. Young Bum said he was wondering what kind of bastard posted this. Yoon Sung said that a high school student lives at this address. He turned to Kwon and invited him to deliver the message to the address and earn some points. Young Bum ordered Kwon to catch the bastard and bring him to him. Kwon ran to carry out the assignment along the way, threatening to kill the one who did it. Young Bum said that he is very grateful to Yoon Sung. Now he feels relieved. Yoon Sung replied that if there are problems, let the boss contact him. He will solve everything. If he pays well for it, of course. Young Byum walked into the teacher's room and asked why the teacher called him. The girl said she needed help. Young Bum said he would be happy to help. The teacher replied that the director had appointed her to be responsible for environmental sanitation, and she has a lot of work left to do, from the restrooms to the hallways. Young Bum was no longer listening. He was looking at her table where the diffuser stood and didn't see it. He asked if the teacher threw away the diffuser. The girl looked attentively and silently into his face. Then she laughed and replied that the director took it to improve the environment. She is so sorry because the guy tried very hard. Young Bum blushed with anger and then turned pale. He was always very careful about his sex work. Yoon Sung, in a conversation with the teacher, reminded her that the crimes associated with this are very dangerous. Young Bum's sex business is carried out under strict supervision and management. Even if a problem arises, this scoundrel has already thought of an escape plan for himself. And he also has a backup plan for the teacher. The girl was confused and did not know what to do. Yoon Sung reassured her. He's going to block this rat's escape route, because the surveillance camera can be turned into a hidden camera in the women's restroom. Young Bum was standing under the door of the women's restroom. His mind worked continuously. If anyone finds out that the camera was installed in the diffuser in the staff women's restroom, then he will become a criminal and a pervert for installing a spying device. He clenched his fists convulsively. He needs to prevent this. Why did the director decide to install a diffuser in the women's restroom? 2 teachers came out of the toilet. They looked at the guy suspiciously and asked what he was doing here. Class would start soon. Young Bum was confused and turned away. The teachers were discussing school matters. One told the guy to stop acting strange and go to class. Young Bum cursed under his breath. Women said that the diffuser in the toilet was changed, and they liked the new one much better. Young Bum kept mentally repeating all the bad words he knew. The women left. He decided it was worth pretending to be crazy for just a minute and opened the door to the women's restroom. Previously, Joanna asked, "Is Yoon Sung going to make Young Bum public by making him a criminal with a hidden camera in the toilet?" Yoon Sung replied that becoming a criminal in Korea who hangs up hidden cameras is like signing his own death warrant. Joanna said that her goal now is to expose Young Bum as the one who placed the hidden camera in the women's restroom. Yoon Sung replied no. At this time, Young Bum ran into the toilet and froze. The wrong diffuser was there. He couldn't believe his eyes. Where is he then? At the same time, in the men's room, Min Dong-woong, the ethics teacher, was carefully examining the new diffuser, trying to understand what was in it. There was something blinking inside. Young Bum froze in place. He couldn't believe where his diffuser was. Yoon Sung told Joanna that he didn't mention that the restroom was a women's room. He planned to make Young Bum the most vile pervert. Cho Young-beom stood with his back to everyone and listened to the shouts. "Teacher, this is a hidden camera. What bastard put her here?" Yoon Sung asked Joanna to publicize the news. A guy, a student from a prestigious school, installed a hidden camera in the men's toilet. Kwon at this time goes to the IP address and finds himself at Yongso High School, northern Gyeonggi Province, the last school in the ranking. The kids there didn't understand the question at all. Did they post something bad about some dude from Seha High School? Kwon tries to convey to them that he has it recorded that it was from this computer lab that the file was sent. The kids report that this psycho has a funny accent, and does he even have money? Kwon realizes that he will achieve nothing here. He's dumb, but kids here are even dumber. He thinks that that bastard Yoon Sung was just making fun of him. Of course, he beat the impudent children for educational purposes, but he did not complete the task. He is very angry with Yoon Sung. Young Bum listens to the cries about the hidden camera demanding to call the police and thinks that they have no evidence. He will simply say that he knows nothing. The teacher, meanwhile, says that he knows how to find the scoundrel who installed the camera. These days, it is possible to do digital forensics on a camera. This is news to Young Bum. He didn't know about this before. The teacher continues that if this does not work, he will look up the camera model and find out when and where it was purchased. The school needs to get rid of the owner of this camera. On this day, Cho Young Bum was able to feel how strong sex education is in Korea. A terrible fear gripped him. At home, he thought hard. What should he do? It's only a matter of time before he gets caught. What should he do to resolve this issue? At this time, his phone rang. Yoon Sung called him to report on the work done. All of Young Bum's tasks were completed. They received a dozen new ID cards. All that remains is to negotiate with the car dealer. Young Bum was in no mood to talk about business. Yoon Sung asked, "Is there something wrong with the boss? Isn't it because of the commotion at school today?" He will help Young Bum in any way he can. Let him tell him what's wrong. Young Bum immediately makes an appointment with Yoon Sung. He says that it was just a misunderstanding. He didn't mean anything bad. He bought the diffuser for personal reasons. The diffuser is most likely in the ethics teacher's desk drawer. Couldn't Yoon Sung take him from there? Yoon Sung sneaks into the school, picks up the diffuser and thinks it's finally time for Young Bum. Young Bum is happy that he finally got his hands on the thing that could destroy him. Yoon Sung says he's not sure why the boss needs this thing, but he personally has nothing to do with it. After which Yoon Sung leaves. Young Byum thought that this guy was very useful to him. He turns the diffuser to take out the camera and is horrified to see that a tracking beacon is attached to the can, and the ethics teacher is already on his way to the place where the beacon is located. And at the same time, he communicates with colleagues. He is determined to catch the perverted bastard. Young Bum scurried down the alley like a rat. A little earlier, Yoon Sung gave the teacher a tracking device. I asked her to attach it to the diffuser and place the can in the toilet. Then she can see Young Bum without his mask. The teacher did just that. She saw Young Bum running from toilet to toilet, and she asked the ethics teacher to go to the men's room and check the diffuser. Now Teacher Min rushed to the place where the beacon was and told the girl on the phone that Teacher O was monitoring the beacon, and its location was changing all the time. The teacher said that this man is a criminal, and we need to catch him. Yongbum was in an alley destroying the damn diffuser. He trampled him underfoot, and I was looking for a memory card. To his relief, he found her. At that moment, Teacher Min noticed him. Yongbum started to run, holding the memory card tightly in his hand. The teacher ran after him. The teacher shouted for the scoundrel to stop immediately, and Yongbum thought in horror, how did it all happen? But now is not the time to think about it. If he is caught, he is dead. He hid behind the car and was breathing heavily. The teacher was looking for him. Yongbum watched him from his hiding place. The teacher began to walk between the rows of cars, and Yongbum looked at the memory card. He was persecuted because of her. But now it will all end. The main thing is that the memory card was removed. He broke it. All that remains is to clean up the remains of the diffuser. The teacher shouted that he knew where the bastard was, but was giving him one last chance to get out. If the guy comes out now, he will have mitigating circumstances. Teacher Ming counted to 3. Yongbum covered his mouth with his hands so as not to even reveal his presence by breathing. Then the teacher shouted loudly, "Siri!" He called the virtual assistant on his phone. With horror, Yongbum grabbed the phone but did not have time to turn it off. His phone answered the call and answered, "I'm listening." That day, Yongbum was able to feel how bad sex crime is in Korea, and he felt fear approaching him from behind. The teacher found the bastard. Yoon Sung discussed next steps with Joanna. The girl said that she was ready and waiting for Yoon Sung's orders. The conversation was interrupted. A very angry Kwang approached Yoon Sung. He said that the fucking traitor Yoon Sung was about to die. Kwang was covered in blood because the children at school also managed to beat him up. At the same time, Yongbum decided that it was better to escape from the teacher. There are days when a person does not succeed. No matter what he does, it only gets worse. This is exactly the kind of day Yongbum had. The teacher chased him down the street. Yoon Sung was also in a bad position. Kwon was advancing towards him, but the guy did not lose his presence of mind and said that he thought that Kwon was dumber and would not figure everything out so quickly. Kwon rushed at the guy like a bulldozer. Yoon Sung deftly dodged the left strike, and Kwon in turn did not allow Yoon Sung to be kicked in the shin. But it was a feint. Yoon Sung rushed at Kwang and knocked him to the ground. Yoon Sung asked if stupid Kwang really thought that he would beat him the same way. Kwon hit his head very hard. He started to get up, realizing that he needed to kill this guy. But first he had to concentrate, and everything was swimming before his eyes. In his homeland of Mongolia, people know how to control their anger. Kwon had already risen to his full height. Yoon Sung stood calmly in front of him. Kwon hit the guy, but he simply stepped aside. Kwon's movements were very slow. Yoon Sung then blocked Kwang's kick, and he asked why Kwon became Jo Yongbum's right hand and does all the dirty work. Kwon thought about his sick mother and his huge hospital bills. His friend, the grandson of the hospital owner, said he would help him. Since this all started, Yoon Sung Kwang replied that he would not understand him. He has to deal with Yoon Sung because he needs Yongbum's help. Because his mother. He didn't have time to finish. A cap flew into Kwon's head. Yoon Sung wasted no time. Yoon Sung didn't care much about the sob stories from the bandits. While Kwon caught the cap and lost his vigilance, Yoon Sung closed the distance and struck again. Kwon was lying on the ground again. Yoon Sung released the sleeve of his hoodie, and he wrapped it around Kwon's throat. His teacher showed him a technique in which you can strangle your enemy if you only have your own clothes at hand. Kwon felt that consciousness was leaving him, and Yoon Sung tightened his sleeve more and more. Knitwear stretches well. Kwon got his second wind, and with a growl, he grabbed the noose on his throat with his hands, and he was able to get to his feet. The guy understood that Kwon's strength could become a problem for him, but it turned out that it was a momentary impulse. Yoon Sung turned his back and increased the pressure on the sleeve on his opponent's throat. He really needed Kwon to completely lose consciousness. As Kwon's mind began to fade, he remembered watching a program about crocodiles as a child. It said that if a crocodile catches a victim, it will never let it go. Kwon thought with the remnants of his consciousness that he had now fallen into the mouth of a crocodile. Once you bite him, he won't let go. Yoon Sung was talking on the phone with Joanna. He said Kwon had just passed out and asked her to come here. Yoon Sung is ready to end everything, and of course you need to tell Cho Yongbeom the whole truth. At this time, Teacher Min caught the fleeing scoundrel by the leg. Yongbum tried to resist, but the teacher said that he would not let him go. In desperation, he kicked the teacher in the face. He hit again and again and screamed to be released immediately. He yelled that the teacher should teach and not run after him and not ruin his future. The teacher held him tightly despite the blows. Yongbum seemed to have gone crazy and shouted that if we left everything to chance, everyone would soon forget about it. Teacher didn't need to get involved in this matter. Teacher Min fainted. This horrified Young Bum. He stood up and walked away from the place, but suddenly a police car appeared out of nowhere, and Young Bum was ordered to stop. The police found the beaten teacher and called an ambulance and reinforcements. Young Bum could barely walk in the pouring rain. His phone rang. He saw that Kwon Chang-soo was calling, who had not answered Young Bum's calls all day today. Before Young Bum could answer the phone, he met Yeon Sung under an umbrella. He asked in surprise what the boss was doing here at this time and in this weather. They were standing right in front of the building that Jo Young Bum's family owned. Young Bum said that business brought him here. He was so exhausted that he fell on Yoon Sung and asked to be taken to the office. He said that Yoon Sung is the only one he can trust now. Yoon Sung replied that he would do everything. But I thought to myself that now the door to hell is open to Young Bum. He told Young Bum that he shouldn't go to the office, but rather get some fresh air, and he took Young Bum into a chokehold. He had something to chat about with the scoundrel. Young Bum thought that today was clearly a bad day and fainted. He woke up on a diving board above the pool. He couldn't remember how he got here. The springboard swung, and Young Bum flew into the water. He did not know how to swim, and loudly called for help. He tried to get to his feet because he felt the bottom, but he screamed in pain. Blood started coming from my leg. The entire bottom was covered with buttons. He grabbed the side and saw Yoon Sung. Young Bum shouted what Yoon Sung was doing here, and why he was doing this to him. Yoon Sung asked if Young Bum remembers the story of the Little Mermaid, that children's fairy tale that everyone knows, where she wanted normal legs. Yoon Sung began to release water from the pool, and he showed Young Bum the Little Mermaid tattoo on his chest. Memories flood back to Yoon Sung again. The commentators shout in admiration that the swimmer is doing the impossible and setting a record. Athlete Lee Na-ha is invincible. She swims the fastest. The girl took first place. Yoon Sung's sister was a great person. She lost her legs, but did not give up and began to swim. She quickly became popular, and newspapers wrote about her. Yoon Sung was very proud and respected his sister. One day, Yoon Sung and his mother went to court, where a case of harm to his sister was being heard. The judge said the defendant says it was an accident. He simply mixed up the brake and gas pedals. The judge continued that the claim had no merit. The defendant was a minor and had no training to drive. The trial was completely unfair, although Young Bum's family was also shocked. They had no idea that their son, who was a quiet child at home, was the one who bullied children at school and hit people with cars. There was no evidence of what happened that day. There were no surveillance cameras in that place. The car's DVR was turned off. The defendant made several attempts to reach an agreement, but they were unsuccessful. The judge read the verdict. Defendant Cho Young-beom is sentenced to 180 hours of community service. Yoon Sung's sister was very depressed by the court's verdict. Cho Young-beom didn't stop there. Skillfully manipulating public opinion, he turned everything so that everyone began to consider Lee Na-ha a criminal. He said that she threatened him, and people attacked the girl with accusations. People saw only one side of the coin and condemned the girl. Na-ha experienced terrible pain, as if she was walking on nails, and one day she arrived on the roof of the house, and she jumped down. She, like the Little Mermaid, lost her voice and could not tell the whole truth. This is a story with a tragic ending. Yoon Sung walked up to Young Bum along the bottom of the shallow pool and said, "Does he remember what happened then?" Young Bum couldn't remember this story at all. Yoon Sung knocked Young Bum right onto the buttons. Young Bum screamed in pain. He shouted that he didn't understand anything, and he threatened that this would not work for the bastard. Yoon Sung took off his wig and said that now Young Bum will believe that he is the same Lee Yoon Sung whom Young Bum knew in school and whose life he ruined. Yoon Sung grabbed Young Bum by the clothes, lifted him up and asked if he remembered everything now. He remembered Sangha's high school and Lee Na-ha's brother Lee Yoon Sung. Young Bum was more worried about the buttons that were stabbing him from all sides. He shouted that it couldn't be, that this was the same loser and weakling. In addition, he strangled and kidnapped a person, which is illegal. Everything can be seen on cameras. Yoon Sung let go of his hand, and Young Bum fell face first on the buttons. His face was cut and he was in a lot of pain. Yoon Sung picked up Young Bum from the floor and started punching him in the face. He said there was no need to worry about the cameras. They came here in Young Bum's car. This is the same car that he used for his sister. Yoon Sung asked how Young Bum has the nerve to ride it. Young Bum shouted that it was not he who burned Yoon Sung's house and killed his sister. It all happened because he was a loser and a slowdown. Yoon Sung began beating the scoundrel again, and was glad that he had not changed at all, but had become even worse since school. He's still the same selfish bastard, and may he never forget the name of Lee Na-ha, whose legs he took away, and ultimately life. Yoon Sung said that he will give Young Bum one last chance to ask for forgiveness from the guy and his sister. Only a sincere apology can help him. Young Bum laughed mockingly. He shouted that he had nothing to apologize for. Moreover, how will he apologize to his sister, who is now burning in hell? Has the stupid loser completely lost his mind? Yongbum perked up as he saw Kwan's figure approaching them. He started calling for help. Kwang Chang-soo silently approached the guys. Yongbum shouted for Kwan to immediately kill the bastard who was holding him, but instead, he received a strong blow from his fist. Kwang Chang-soo pushed Yoon-sung aside and began beating his former boss himself. Yoon-sung watched all this in silence. Joanna quickly arrived where Yoon-sung called her, and they showed Kwan the documents, from which it was clear that Kwan's mother needed urgent surgery. But in order to control Kwan longer, Cho Young-beom used skillful manipulations to delay the operation, and his mother was getting worse. If she had undergone surgery quickly, the disease would not have lasted so long. Kwan was dumbfounded by such news. Even if you sue the hospital now, nothing can be proven. So Kwan decided to just deal with Young-beom. Young-bum protected himself, and even if he wrote about this incident on the internet, he would immediately block everything and accuse Kwan of slander. Kwan told Young-bum that he knew that he did not treat his mother, and now Kwan will make Young-bum himself suffer. He won't win in court anyway because Jo Young-bum's family has money. He'll just kill Young-bum today, because this is the only way to take revenge in Korea. Young-bum kept telling Kwan that the doctors were against the operation, and Kwan trusted his imaginary friend too much. Young-bum said that mom should just be hospitalized. Kwan was worried that he had no money. Young-bum said that for his friend, he will beg his grandfather to give discounts, and Young-bum will take care of the rest of the money himself. He promised that he would do everything possible to help Kwan and his mother. In return, let Kwan simply carry out a couple of his instructions. Kwan agreed to everything. He trusted the scoundrel to the last. He trusted him to take care of his mother. The timing of the operation was missed, and Kwan's mother will now require permanent hospitalization, which is exactly what Young-beom wanted. He had excellent leverage over Kwan. Kwan was determined to deal with Young-bum. He dealt blow after blow to the vile face. Hyun-sung grabbed Kwan's hand and told him to stop. He reminded that if he kills Young-bum now, he will go to jail and will not be able to pay hospital bills. Kwan admitted that he was right and left, lamenting that he had trusted this scoundrel for so long. He said that if Young-beom doesn't transfer money to him for his mother so that he can transfer her to another hospital and start proper treatment, then he will definitely kill him. Young-bum panicked and thought about how Yoon-sung found out about everything. Yoon-sung took out an external drive from his pocket, showed it to Young-bum, and he realized that he was finished. Kyung-min told Yoon-sung where the external drive was located, that it contained contact information about funds, medical records of subsidiaries, money information, and money laundering information. This is Cho Yo-bum's ledger where all his secrets are kept. Hyun-seong said that he infiltrated Young-bum's gang for a reason. He first reached the people around him, and the main thing he needed was that same data storage device. Young-bum realized that the end had come for him. He called Lee Yoon-sung by name and said that he was really hurt, and it was all his fault. He has sinned greatly against Lee Yoon-sung's family, and he is sorry that he is asking for forgiveness so late. He said that he will surrender to the police and will repent for the rest of his life. Taking advantage of the fact that Yoon-sung had lost his vigilance, Young-bum pushed him away and jumped to the car keys that were lying on the floor. He ran, hoping that he now had an advantage over the stupid loser, who believed in his fairy tales. What forgiveness and redemption. He opened the car and got behind the wheel. He needed to run. Yoon-sung ran to the car and stood in its path. He shouted for Young-bum to get out of the car. This is his last chance. He can just apologize and leave. Young-bum showed him an obscene gesture and had no intention of stopping. He pressed the gas and pulled away. Yoon-sung barely managed to jump to the side. He silently looked after the car. Young-bum was driving the car at high speed and thought that Lee Yoon-sung was an idiot, making a big deal out of a molehill. It was a long time ago. Even the statute of limitations has expired. In the meantime, he decided to talk about everything on the internet, describing the situation in a light favorable to himself. Suddenly he saw that the roads were blocked. He began to brake and realized that the brake was not working. Joanna stood with Yoon-sung and said that there was no need to worry about the scene of the incident. She had the entire perimeter under control. No vehicle will enter there except Young-bum's car. She asked if this bastard never apologized. Yoon-sung was silent. Young-bum's car lost control, knocked down the fence, and it flew down, losing its wheels and bumper. There is a saying, if you make people cry, be prepared to cry tears of blood. Yoon-sung was sorry that he ended it so late, but now his sister can rest in peace. He will never forget his dear big sister. Now he has avenged her. In the middle of the street, in the rain, there was a wheelchair covered with an umbrella. Joanna came to see Cho Young-bin's parents, and she showed them documents that contained evidence of all the crimes that their son had committed. Identity theft, assault on minors, illegal filming, sex crimes, driving without a license. She added that he violated medical laws by using his grandfather's hospital. Mom felt bad. If Joanna turns everything over to the police, young Bum's father and grandfather will suffer great damage. The girl suggested that the guy's father make the right decision. It's good that the case about the camera in the school toilet only ended with an exception, but here's everything else. Young Bum's father asked if the visitor was threatening him. He didn't seem to understand who he was dealing with. The girl laughed and said that she had something else. She pulled out a photo of young Bum's father drinking with the judge who was presiding over the Lee Na-ha hit-and-run case. Yi said that the judge is still a close friend of the Cho family. Everything became clear to young Bum's father, and Joanna gave him a bank account. He understood what was required of him. Young Bum was in the hospital in very bad condition. His spinal cord was seriously damaged in the accident. According to doctors, the entire central nervous system of the left half of the body was damaged. Now he will not be able to live a normal life. His legs were now useless. He would never be able to walk. In impotent anger, he drove his parents out of the room and flew into a rage. Two strong men appeared on the threshold of the room behind the parents, who took Yong Byom by the arms and carried him out of the room. He shouted that he didn't understand what was happening. The parents looked at their son in silence. It was very difficult for them to watch such a scene. During her visit, Joanna advised that young Bum be sent to a mental hospital. It's much better than prison. She didn't want to complicate things, but if the case was made public, the hospital would be affected first, then the school, then the judge, and eventually they would come to the building that the Cho family owned and where the crimes took place. She showed consent to hospitalization from a third party and stated that discharge from the psychiatric hospital would only be after the consent of this third party. If consent is not given, young Bum will not be able to leave the hospital. It was all over with young Bon. Yoon Sung was even able to kill his parents. They agreed to all the conditions. It's time to move on to the next bastard. A TV show is being recorded on the set. The presenter welcomes all viewers of the broadcast with celebrities. Now broadcasting with the icon of the young generation, actor Kang Joon-hyuk. Kang Joon-hyuk has a handsome face and a sly smile, an increasingly popular actor. There are many rumors that he had problems with women, but thanks to his acting skills, which he began honing since childhood, and a strong fan base, he is now working in the entertainment industry without any problems. The presenter will ask the actor another question. What were his school days like? Kang Joon-hyuk freezes in silence, his face darkening. He seems confused but quickly pulls himself together, and he asks the same question to the reporter. What were his school days like? The reporter also started his career while still in school, and he is also an idol. Everyone will be interested in how he studied at school. The reporter seems confused and says he was fine at school. One of the girls on set tells her friend that something is wrong with the actor. Why did he become so irritated? Perhaps something bad happened to him in the past. Kang Joon-hyuk accidentally overhears this conversation and tells the girls that nothing happened. His school years were also smooth and carefree. Yoon Sung walks onto the set wearing a motorcycle helmet. He thinks that the actor enjoys living in the entertainment world and finds it difficult to suppress his volatile nature. He was determined to become a celebrity, but at the same time he bullied Yoon Sung at school and said that society consists of dogs and pigs. Yoon Sung's path is blocked. Outsiders are not allowed to enter the site. The guy says that he is only a courier and hands over an envelope. This is express delivery. Kang Joon-hyuk gets angry and tells the reporter that such interviews are very unpleasant. He demands that the manager bring the car. They leave. At this time, the employee brings an envelope from express delivery. It was probably the fans who sent something. Yoon Sung is confident that his target will understand everything as soon as he sees what's in the envelope, because it's all because of what the bastard did. Kang Joon-hyuk wants to take the envelope, but the employee says that the package is not for him. It's for a reporter from Minwoo. The guy freezes in bewilderment, but he quickly pulls himself together and says that apparently the fans sent him a surprise. A break is announced for 10 minutes. Minwoo takes out a photograph from the table, looks at her. Joon-hyuk snatches the photo from his hand. He also wants to see what is there. In the photo there are 3 guys standing and 2 of them are Yongbum and Sang-chul. The third one looks a lot like Minwoo and smiles at the camera. Everyone seems drunk. Joon-hyuk asks who these thugs are, and why does Minwoo look like one of them. Minwoo grabs his face and hisses that if anyone sees or finds out about this photo, he will kill Kang Joon-hyuk. He demands that Joon-hyuk shut up and pretend he didn't see anything if he wants to save his popular life. Shin Minwoo is a bastard on a completely different level than Jo Young-bum. He's even more vicious, but he needs to prepare that when he reaches the peak, Yoon Sung will be waiting there to drag him down to hell. The director was about to start filming again and told the actors to get ready. Shin Minwoo said with a sweet smile that they are ready. Joon-hyuk looked at him silently. He wondered what was wrong with this bastard. Is he really crazy? Min-woo asked matter-of-factly, "Is it true that Dong-hyuk had his own fan club back in school?" Shin Min-woo was the first to bully Yoon-sung. Everyone else began to follow his example. The most common reason for violence in school is just for fun, without a reason. 4 years ago, Yoon-sung came to a new school. He had nothing in common with Min-woo. They didn't even know each other. There were rumors that he was a bully. During recess, Yoon-sung got a stomachache and went to the toilet. The guys he was afraid to meet were smoking there, and he left. In class, Min-woo suggested that Yoon-sung switch places. Yoon-sung couldn't refuse and moved over. Yoon-sung's stomach continued to hurt, and during recess he made it to the toilet. The juvenile idiots led by Shin Min-woo took a photo of him at that moment. Min-woo knew very well how to turn someone into an outcast for a stupid reason. He enjoyed every second. Right now he was watching the birth of an outcast. He chose Yoon-sung for no reason. He just seemed like an easy target. Shin Min-woo opened the gates of hell in which Yoon-sung lived. Min-woo tried to figure out who sent him the photo, but Cho Young-bum did not answer his calls. His manager asked what Min-woo was looking for, and said that the delivery guy had nothing to do with it. Yoon-sung was driving towards Min-woo's car on a motorcycle. Shin Min-woo must pay for his actions differently than Jo Young-bum. The manager who was driving the car, Min-woo, turned to the guy and didn't see the motorcycle. Min-woo shouted for him to look at what was ahead of him. The motorcycle and the car were approaching each other. The car swerved to the side, trying to avoid a collision. Yoon-sung hit the window where Min-woo was sitting with a bat. He had no intention of holding back when he took revenge. The glass broke. Yoon-sung grabbed Min-woo by the throat. He could not understand who attacked him. Without saying a word, Yoon-sung pulled Min-woo out of the car, and he lowered his fist on Shin Min-woo's face. That was his plan. At school, Yoon-sung was simply chosen for bullying, and he couldn't do anything about it. Now Shin Min-woo couldn't do anything about the attacker who started beating him on the street. He received blows one after another, and could only scream that he would find the bastard. The manager ran to help Min-woo. Yoon-seong threw him aside with one blow, and continued raising Min-woo. After a few more blows, he got on his motorcycle and drove away. The manager crawled to his ward to find out if he was alive. Ming-woo lay covered in blood and wondered what it was, and who it was. "We need to catch this bastard as soon as possible." Shin Min-woo was lying in the hospital surrounded by reporters. They asked if there was anyone in his past who held a grudge against him, and then he took revenge. Min-woo didn't know if this was true, or if he was just an unknown madman who was attacking everyone around him. At this time, the director of the UP company, Yang Won-dong, entered the room. He asked the reporters to leave him alone with the actor. He smiled widely and said that this attack would be a problem. All the media are writing about this now. Min-woo didn't care about the problems. He was going to find the one who attacked him, and was not going to let him get away with it. Won-dong replied that he had already sent a person to find out everything. Now, he is looking for any information. Surveillance cameras, background checks, the police should not interfere. They will take care of everything themselves. This bastard is practically dead already. Yoon-sung, quite alive, changed his clothes. There were many more tattoos on his body. Min-woo could not lie quietly in the ward. He wanted revenge. Director Yeon said not to worry. This attack gave them a good scenario. Shin Min-woo became a noble victim. He tried to protect his manager and was attacked. And Won-dong's people will take care of the bastard. They found Yoon-sung's motorcycle. This means that the attacker is somewhere nearby. He was there. With a bat in his hands, Yoon-sung approached the group of men. He had a helmet on his head. Director Yan Won-dong has already called the press and talked about Min-woo's heroic act. He immediately announced that Min-woo had been cast for the series. Their agency takes good care of its actors, so the director asks them to advertise the series in their articles. Yoon-sung walked along the hospital corridor and pulled one of Won-dong's men by the hair. Yoon-sung entered the room and interrupted the director mid-sentence. The director went nuts when he saw this picture, his beaten employee and a man in a helmet. Yoon-sung threw the beaten man to the floor and began to take off his helmet. Min-woo looked at him carefully. "I found out and went nuts." The director was yelling, "Who is this?" Yoon-sung smiled and said that he was Min-woo's friend. The director rushed at him to beat the bastard up, but Min-woo stopped him. He sadly said that this was really his friend, a classmate from high school. At school, Shin Min-woo realized with disappointment that next year he would be an adult, and it won't be possible to misbehave the way you do now. Impunity ends. He shared this news with Sang-chil and Young Beom. Therefore, they decided to bully Lee Yoon-sung all year long, while they could to make this year memorable. There won't be any problems. They are still minors. The problem arose later. Min-woo was going to star in a drama, and standing in front of him was the victim of his school violence. Min-woo asked Yoon-sung to close the door, speak more quietly, and they would solve everything. He asked the director to leave too. He muttered that they got along well at school. Yoon Sung became the one who was able to ask Min Woo, "And what can you do?" The person who attacked him was a victim of school violence committed by Min Woo. What can the actor do now in front of the public? He is now incapable of anything, and Yoon Sung will open the door to hell for him. Director Yeon Won-dong sat in his office and read Shin Min Woo's personal file. This bastard has a past. Won-dong was already getting tired of this. Min Woo left the hospital. On his way out, he was met by reporters who asked many questions. Without answering a word, Min Woo and his escort walked into the car. The reporters wanted to talk to the man who was defending his manager, and they couldn't understand why the actor was so gloomy. His driver said that as a child he also teased children at school, and these losers cannot take revenge. They are too cowardly. The door to Min Woo's apartment greeted them with a broken lock. In the ransacked apartment, a cat was running and Yoon Sung was lying. Min Woo's apartment was very okay, but some people had to live in the basement after a fire in the house. Yoon Sung envied the wonderful lives of celebrities. Even Min Woo's girlfriend, with whom he has many photos, is also famous. Min Woo twisted with anger. Yoon Sung said that he remembers how Min Woo was ready to turn himself inside out for such a life. Yoon Sung put his hand on Min Woo's shoulder and told him to make his face simpler. Otherwise, you might think that he is a victim here. He left but promised to return. They're friends. Shin Min Woo knew perfectly well what Yoon Sung wanted and why he was doing it. He wants to provoke Min Woo. He wants to get old Min Woo out. He is not interested in forgiveness and will not accept any apology. After all, in the past, Min Woo came to Yoon Sung after the fire and apologized. This is generally a basic precaution for those who want to become a celebrity. Although he did not feel any remorse and believed that Yoon Sung himself was to blame for everything, Min Woo decided to take action and called his acquaintance in the biker gang Bike Toro, whose motto was devotion. He asked to gather as many guys as possible and find and teach Yoon Sung a lesson. The gang set off to carry out the assignment. Min Woo lit a cigarette and said that he hoped that the gang would remain faithful to him and solve all the problems. Bikers armed with sticks walked along the narrow alley where Yoon Sung was supposed to be. The guy knew how to respond to the provocation and went out in front of the bandits. His appearance coincided with the signs given by Min Woo. Red-haired with a scar on his face, the bandits came even faster than he expected. The usual conversations before a fight began. Who are you? Why so impudent? When Joanna found out that Yoon Sung was going to fight with so many bandits, she decided that it was very dangerous. Yoon Sung replied that that was why he was going to meet them in the narrow alley. You can't leave your back open in a fight like this. The girl considered it risky anyway, but Yoon Sung was calm. There was another reason why the fight had to take place here. None of the bandits will be able to escape. One of the bandits waved a stick and prepared to start beating Yoon Sung. But behind him there was some commotion and two people screamed. They were hit by a strong fist. A dissatisfied voice asked, "Did Yoon Sung call him because of such petty squabbles?" He, of course, is ready to help because he does not forget kindness. The bandits turned towards the voice. Their way out of the alley was blocked by Kwon, who had already taken several of their comrades out of the game. All escape routes were cut off. Kwon said that now they will drive the bandits into a corner and beat them. Yoon Sung also prepared for a fight. How to win a fight with a gang. First pin her down and then beat her. The recipe is simple. Yoon Sung's teacher flatly refused to teach him how to fight a gang. It was too dangerous. They may be armed. Yoon Sung had no other choice. He should have won. Then the teacher told him that he can't fight alone. There must be someone else whom Yoon Sung trusts. And one more important detail. First of all, you need to take care of the back of your head. To do this, Yoon Sung put on a helmet. Yoon Sung attacked the nearest opponent with a kick, and at the same time a blow to the jaw. The second bandit ran to the rescue of his comrade, but was kicked in the chest. Yoon Sung wasn't afraid because he didn't have to protect anyone. The fight continued, and many bandits were already lying on the ground. Min Woo received a message from the director asking him to come see him. He angrily asked the guy if he was the one who told the director that Min Woo asked the guys to deal with Yoon Seong. The guy apologized, but Min Woo told him that if he got involved in this matter again, he would regret it. Has he forgotten what kind of person Min Woo is? It can remind a guy of his trauma. Meanwhile, the fight continued, and Yoon Sung dodged a direct right blow. The enemy attacked him and Yoon Sung kept dodging. Kwon fought effortlessly. Someone was already shouting that his leg was broken. Kwon grabbed one of the bandits by the arm and twisted it. He asked Yoon Sung if he was satisfied with his devotion. All the bandits were put on the ground. Kwon said that he was very surprised when Yoon Sung asked him for help. But Yoon Sung didn't have to pay him any money. He doesn't need them. He threw the money at Yoon Sung's feet. Yoon Sung remembered where he got this money from. Mom brought them. She cried and said that this money was the price of his sister's life. Yoon Sung didn't need this money. Kwon can do whatever he wants with them. At least burn it or throw it away. Yoon Sung walked in the other direction. Kwon looked at his back and thought that Yoon Sung was acting like a man who had nothing to lose. At this time, Min-woo showed himself in all his glory. He beat his assistant badly. His assistant must have known Shin Min-woo well, since they went to the same school and were friends. And he knows how hard Min-woo tries to keep his anger under control, and he did it so well. But if he sits idly by in this situation, people will think he is a loser. Min-woo abandoned his beaten friend and went to the exit. It is very harmful to restrain yourself for a long time. Min-woo, clothes stained with blood, went down to the parking lot, where he was met by two men. He didn't know who they were. Actor Jun-hyuk approached him from behind, accompanied by two other guys. He asked, "Isn't Min-woo a teenager and he can drive?" The guys surrounded Min-woo and Jun-hyuk said that now is a very convenient time to beat him up for his behavior on the set, and Jun-hyuk can't leave it like that. Min-woo realized that he would not have a quiet life. Director Yeon Won-dong couldn't reach Shin Min-woo on the phone. Min-woo himself was very busy. All his opponents were lying in the parking lot, unconscious. Finally he answered the call, and the director yelled why the bastard wasn't answering the phone, and where is Jun-tae, who is also not answering. Jun-tae lay beaten in Min-woo's house. Min-woo lit a cigarette. He sat down on the body lying on the ground and told the director that everything needed to be resolved right now. He doesn't care if he's a celebrity or what, but he can't do this anymore. He needs to stop it, or the director accepts him for who he is. Either he tells the press the whole truth about the director, and they go down together. Either the old scum will cover Min-woo, or he will be finished just like Min-woo. He will show Mir his true character. This is just a warning. The director was dumbfounded by what he heard, after which Min-woo made another call. He was going to do everything to make Yoon Sung suffer, and for this, it was necessary to gather all the guys. He called Song Joon-hwan, who was very surprised by the call. She and Min-woo haven't spoken for a long time. Min-woo said that Lee Yoon-sung came to take revenge, and the next one after Min-woo will be Joon-hwan. Before Yoon-sung makes a move, they will attack him themselves. When they deal with it, then they can live in peace. After the death of his older sister, Lee Yoon-sung's family plunged into chaos. His mother almost lost her mind. At that time, my mother thought that all the troubles were due to Shin Min-woo, whom she saw in the hospital with Yoon-sung. She met him at the agency all the time, and he was very angry when he met her. He didn't set her house on fire and he didn't kill Naha. There is no evidence. He promised that he would sue her. He would complain to the agency that she was violating his personal boundaries, and the agency would take his side. Of course he lied, but my mother believed him because she was uneducated. The sister was responsible for family finances and other matters, and Shin Min-woo promised her to make her family's life hell with one movement of his hand. Yoon-sung's stupid mother had no one to turn to, no one to complain to. Meeting Min-woo was her last impulse. She decided that she was indeed wrong. Min-woo said that now she realized that she was to blame and took her phone. Now Min-woo pulled Joon-hwan away from the computer game with his call. The guy was unhappy and said that he didn't care about all this. It's Min-woo's fault. Why did he become a celebrity? Let him figure it out himself. Just apologize and everything will be fine. Beside himself with rage, Min-woo broke the mirror in the car and decided that he would deal with Yoon-sung himself. Then he remembered that he had already sent the guys to the case and decided to call to find out about the result. There was no one to answer the call. Everyone was still unconscious. Shin Min-woo realized what happened and began to think about what he could do right now. His opponents have not yet come to their senses either. He's about to film a series. After the attack, offers of cooperation increased sharply. He's almost there, he's at the top. There is only one correct decision left. How best to portray remorse. He came to Yoon-sung, fell to his knees and began to ask for forgiveness. He didn't understand what came over him. He was like crazy. He sobbed that his whole life would not be enough to make amends. He knew that this was the only way he could get out and stay on top, maintaining his celebrity status. Yoon-sung told Min-woo to stand up. Min-woo began to thank him for accepting his apology. He immediately received a knee to his arm, and Yoon-sung replied that he did not accept his apology. Yoon-sung wanted Min-woo not to think of him as an idiot. He knows what Min-woo is like. He knows about all his sins. 4 years ago, after meeting Yoon-sung's mother, Min-woo also talked to Young Bum. He said that this woman really annoys him. He needs to teach her a real lesson. She shouldn't have approached him and pretended to be a victim. They withdrew all her money from the bank through Yoon-sung's mother's phone. Mom almost had a shock when she found out that there were pennies left in the account, and there was money from the insurance of her dead daughter. The manager explained that the funds had been withdrawn from the account. The police told my mother that they would not find the scammers. The recipients' accounts turned out to be fake, and they are associated with foreign banks. Mom brought home the money that was left and cried bitterly. Now Yoon-sung said that after Min Woo ruined his life, he was not going to forgive him. He pulled out Min Woo's hand and he screamed in pain. Yoon Sung was not going to listen to any excuses. He came for revenge. Min Woo sobbed and asked for forgiveness in earnest. He didn't know that Yoon Sung had suffered so much. He would dedicate himself to making amends for him and his sister. Yoon Sung thought that the fist is stronger than the law. Justice is not on the side of the victims. An apology is the least they owe him. If Yoon Sung had not forced them, they would not have apologized, and would have remained silent for the rest of their lives. He left with Kwan, parting with Min Woo to visit his sister's crypt every year. Then he will be a celebrity, but he still broke his arm. Min Woo wept and planned to lead a righteous life and not stop the path to correcting sins. The contract to star Shin Min Woo in the series was signed. Min Woo and a cast listened to the director's words that it was an honor to work with such a wonderful person and actor. Min Woo became a very popular actor. All the media wrote about him. He had reached the highest point in his life. 5 minutes of shame, and the doors to the life of his dreams opened wide before him. The director was delighted with Min Woo's success. Min Woo thought he was surrounded by scum. He was intimidated and beaten, but they didn't lift a finger to help him. The director asked if Min Woo read the contract carefully before signing. Min Woo thought about it. There was one dubious clause in the contract. The manager said that since there were all sorts of rumors, this item must be there. If an actor causes harm during the filming process, the studio may demand compensation for all losses. For a celebrity, image is everything, but the manager is confident that everything will be fine. Min Woo decided that there would be no problems. Lee Yoon Sung forgave him. The director was worried that if the contract was terminated, Min Woo would be in big trouble. The fine is usually 3 times the fee. This is a lot of money. The principal hoped that Min Woo had worked things out with his school friend. I wouldn't want this story to come out. Min Woo assured that everything was fine. Suddenly the door opened, and Yoon Sung and Joanna appeared on the threshold. The director called Yoon Sung and asked him to come to the agency. Joanna said that she is a reporter and would like to interview Min Woo about school bullying. There was information that he bullied Yoon Sung at school. The agency said that this was impossible, and she decided to check everything herself. Yoon Sung promised to take revenge on Min Woo and throw him off his pedestal. The director said that since Min Woo has no money, the agency will pay a penalty of 3 fees. This is approximately 2.5 billion won. But Min Woo will have to sign a lifetime contract with the agency. The agency will find an opportunity for him to work off the debt even after he loses his career. Min Woo realized that he was in trouble, and it was impossible to get out of it. He crossed the wrong people's path. Shortly before this, Yoon Sung came to the agency and told the director that he would make public cases of bullying at school. He will do anything to destroy Min Woo, so the agency shouldn't even try to hush up the matter. The director told Yoon Sung not to rush. Their interests in this overlap. He can help Yoon Sung make Min Woo's life hell. Yoon Sung needs revenge, and the director needs to get as much money from Min Woo as possible. And if they combine their efforts, they can achieve excellent results. Min Woo didn't just wait. He broke the bottle, pointed it at the director, and shouted that they were all in agreement. Manager Park hit Min Woo hard in the face. General Manager Park Gun-tae was a former UFC professional fighter. For him, Min Woo was just a project that was supposed to bring in a lot of money, and his school peccadillos will become public knowledge if he disobeys. Shin Min Woo is a commodity whose price is now rapidly rising. The agency will use its product to the fullest. Joanna knew that now the agency would use Min Woo until her last breath, because the people in this industry know best how to rip people off and use them to the limit. Yoon Sung agreed with the girl. Gloomy Min Woo was driving in the car and thought that for 3 days he has been working all the time. He doesn't even have time to sleep. He even attended some village concert. They arrived at a large building where Min Woo was supposed to be the host of the celebration. The driver told Min Woo to behave there. The work of a presenter depends entirely on the mood of the crowd. The world of show business is a world of enslaving contracts, in which every point is in favor of the agency. It is impossible to refuse, because without a contract you cannot debut on stage. Agencies lure young artists with financial support and promotion, and then force them to sign a completely unfair contract. And after signing, any sin of the ward, any little thing becomes a powerful tool of influence. Min Woo sat in the luxurious living room and wondered what he was doing here. He remembered that many wives of rich people like to have private meetings with celebrities. An old woman entered the room. This was Hom Yu-ra, and she was 73 years old. She said that she had heard a lot about him and wanted to meet him, and he is a very nice boy. Min Woo thought that he would definitely take revenge on everyone who gave him such a life. The director asked Park if he knew why the director cooperated with Yoon Sung. The most damaged celebrity can be put to good use. They can cheat the audience out of money and launder money. With their help, you can attract investors. All is not lost for Min Woo. Now he needs to be humbled so he can become a celebrity again. but Yoon Sung will need to shut his mouth, and the director will kill him. Now Min Woo is not going anywhere, and Lee Yoon Sung can be gotten rid of. Min Woo had to work so much that he didn't realize what day it was. Now he had to compete in a stupid all-star team competition. If it weren't for the fine, he would have given up everything long ago. He thought that now the value of his image had increased, and the amount in his account was growing, and this will help him pay the fine faster. Of course, most of this money is squeezed out of him by the agency and director Won Dong. But even now, Min Woo receives much more money than before. This means we need to work even harder. Director Won Dong sat in the sauna and spoke on the phone that because of money, Min Woo began to understand his situation. And this is good. He decided that there was no need to worry about Shin Min Woo. He was under control and asked Manager Park how he was going to get rid of Yoon Sung. According to Korean law, planned murder will receive the harshest punishment, unlike murder by negligence. Therefore, in the underground world, Director Won Dong and Manager Park found a way to fake accidents. Yoon Sung walked down the street. He knew very well that they would come to him to destroy him. Joanna learned that Director Won Dong was originally a gangster. He was imprisoned for organized murder. If you dig around, you can find out that he has several staging accidents. So Joanna told Yoon Sung that he should move out immediately. She said that he should remember why they are all helping him, and his death is not part of their plans. In addition, he made them one promise that he must fulfill. Yoon Sung stood at the crossing and was about to cross the road. On the other side stood a very strange-looking man. He looked like a half-crazed homeless man. Yoon Sung prepared to take out a telescopic baton from his pocket, just in case. The traffic light turned green, and Yoon Sung and the man walked across the road. Manager Park was telling Won Dong at this time that he had already hired someone to deal with the bastard. Nowadays, people with physical and mental disabilities are guaranteed to receive a reduced sentence, so they are increasingly being used to deal with opponents. The safest method is driving while intoxicated. Yoon Sung and the homeless man were getting closer to each other. The homeless man walked by without paying attention to Yoon Sung. Yoon Sung turned around to look at the man and didn't notice the car coming towards him, behind the wheel of which was a clearly inadequate person. Manager Park thought through everything to the smallest detail. The media will write a short article tomorrow, and it will all be over. The car was flying towards Yoon Sung. So suddenly failure overtook him. The telescopic baton could not help. It was impossible to avoid being hit. Yoon Sung had no happy memories before his imminent death. Only images of the people he was worried about flashed through his mind. Yoon Sung was lying on the ground covered in blood. Screams were heard. A man was killed. An ambulance was rushing down the street to the scene of the incident. Doctors took the victim to the operating room. Vital indicators were falling. The operation took a long time. The doctor came out very tired. The doctor said that the victim was saved, but disability was not ruled out. He said all this to the living and unharmed Yoon Sung, who got out of a bad situation this time too. When he was already expecting imminent death, another car at full speed crashed into the one that was flying towards him and changed its trajectory. Joanna was driving this car. Yoon Sung was thrown to the side. The blow hit a tangent, but he was knocked out for a while. She was going to pick up Yoon Sung to take him to a safe place, and when she saw the situation, she intervened without thinking. The girl was seriously injured. Yoon Sung was very upset about what happened to Joanna. He was waiting for the results of the operation in the waiting room. A makeup artist friend joined him. Director Won Dong was furious and slammed everything he could reach into the wall. How could a simple matter be botched like that? Director Won Dong shouted that now Yoon Sung knows that they are going to kill him and will be more careful. At the hospital, Yoon Sung and the woman were joined by Kwang, who had heard about the accident. He decided to immediately go and kill Director Won Dong, actor Min Woo, and everyone who got in his way. Together, they managed to stop Kwang. Yoon Sung told his accomplices what his plan was now. These bastards crossed the line themselves, and they need to be punished. Choi Kyung-min's phone, whom we remember from the events with Cho Young-bum, suddenly rang. Kyung-min was not happy when he saw who the call was from. Yoon Sung said that Kyung-min is a master at hacking other people's accounts. That's what he needs. Yoon Sung said that he needs to catch Won Dong and Min Woo without anyone suspecting where the trouble came from. And Ken Min is an excellent specialist in this matter. Min Woo was completely exhausted after a hard day. A 4-day shoot awaited him on an island in Chuncheon province, which didn't make him happy. He didn't like outdoor team games, but for the sake of money, you can endure it. He checked his phone to see how much money he had in his account and was speechless with indignation. There was nothing on the account. At the bank, the manager said that there was a record of funds transferred from this account. Wasn't it the young master who transferred this money? Min Woo screamed and made a fuss. The manager showed him printouts of the accounts. Min Woo went nuts. Director Won Dong's name was mentioned in the transactions. Won Dong didn't suspect anything. He was enjoying his time with his new actress, who wondered if the director would promote her for her favor. The director promised her this. The office door swung open, and Min-woo himself appeared on the threshold. He watched the interesting composition on the director's desk, and the director in turn gaped at the unexpected guest. Min-woo asked if he could interrupt the lovebirds and ask one question. Why did Director Won-dong embezzle his money? The director was speechless from such an unfair attack. The gigantic figure of Manager Park appeared behind Min-woo, who decided to deal with him in the usual way and knock out the insolent guy with one blow. He continued to strike while the director shouted that Min-woo had gone completely crazy. What money? Min-woo did not pay attention to the blows and continued to ask the director why he touched his money. Manager Park continued his educational work, methodically beating the actor. The money, of course, was stolen by Yoon Seo. The makeup artist entered his dressing room, taking advantage of the fact that the actor fell asleep, and installed a hacking application on his phone. Yoon Sung made it look like the director was trying to withdraw money. He planned to do this later, when Min-woo had more money. But that's how the circumstances turned out. Kwon said that their enemy is strong, gangsters, fighters of the UFC. One Min-woo is a weakling. Shin Min-woo was not a weakling at all. He could hit several opponents at once. In a fight, no one wanted to mess with him, and everyone thought he was crazy. He trained in jiu-jitsu, and always said that in a fight you need to count on the death of your opponent. Yoon Sung was a rare coward and a loser, and was very afraid of Min-woo. One day he heard Min-woo say that a celebrity needs to hide the aggressive side of his nature. Min-woo did not endure the beatings for long in the director's office. He simply grabbed Manager Park's ear with his teeth. Puck had no time to laugh. He could not tear the toothy opponent away from him. Only together with your ear. But it was a pity for the ear. All this time Min-woo kept himself under control, but now there was no point in holding back. He trained in jiu-jitsu for over 5 years in high school. If Min-woo goes crazy, few can resist him. And in a duel with Director Won-dong, you can sympathize with the director. Min-woo drove the director into a corner and had nowhere to run. He said that he would finish him on the spot. Manager Park lay unconscious and could not help his boss in any way. Min-woo demanded that the director return his money. Yoon Sung prepared another surprise for the director and Min-woo. This entire scene was broadcast live, and people stopped on the street to watch such a show. There were more and more people. The director shouted that there had been a small misunderstanding between them. They needed to calm down and resolve everything peacefully. Min-woo really wanted to go back to childhood, when you didn't have to worry about anything. He recalled to the director enslaving contracts, the use of young stars for sex services, violations of labor laws, and beating of actors. He demanded to terminate the contract. At that moment, the secretary ran into the room and said that they had worse problems. Everything that just happened is being shown online. Someone also hacked the billboard, and everyone is watching it with interest on the street. Investors are furious and demand an explanation. Stock prices are falling non-stop. Collapse is inevitable. The hidden camera ended up in the air purifier, and it looks like it was a planned action. Right now there is a live broadcast across the country. Min-woo realized that his days were numbered. The gangsters won't forgive him for this. Ken Ming not only masterfully hacked into other people's accounts, but was also excellent at installing hidden cameras. It was he who helped Yoon Sung against his will. Yoon Sung said that the work was good, but next time let Kyung Min come quickly. Ken Ming felt like he was in the mouth of a crocodile again. The director tried to resolve the situation and said that we needed to call the police. People's presenter Kim Chu-mok burst into the director's office, who was yelling that he bought a share of the agency yesterday and wants to know what's going on. The director sat down and began to calm the shareholder. He said that the camera was still working and the presenter grabbed his head. He said it was all because of Min-woo, who blabbed about all the dirty deeds on camera. He demanded that Min-woo come to him, and he came up with a golf club, which the director thoughtlessly kept in his office and hit the presenter so that his head almost flew off his shoulders. He landed several more blows on the leader, who was already lying on the floor and screaming. Min-woo told the whole world that he wanted to live in peace, but he was not allowed to. Did they all conspire to drag him down? Finally, Min-woo threw the stick away. He said that he lost and the damned vengeful asshole Yoon Sung won. But Min-woo asked for forgiveness, and Yoon Sung said that he forgave him. But it turned out that his complexes were stronger, and he continued to take revenge. Now Min-woo will kill Yoon Sung. Yoon Sung saw all this and called Min-woo, and made an appointment with him at a certain address. Min-woo went out to the reporters, who really wanted to know if the story about the agency's crimes was true. They surrounded the actor and bombarded him with questions. Min-woo sent them in a rude manner with physical violence. He had more important things to do now. Yoon Sung was waiting for his enemy in the church. Soon Min-woo arrived there. Yoon Sung said that in order not to forget everything that was done to him at school, he got a lot of tattoos. And does Min-woo want to know which tattoo reminds him of him? Min-woo didn't give a fuck about the high school loser's tattoo. He swung and prepared to strike. Yoon Sung managed to put in his 2 cents that Min Woo's tattoo is called Mulv, and pulled out a telescopic baton, with which he hit the enemy. He struck one blow after another with his baton, and at the same time, he said that he would tell Min Woo everything and make him pay. And why did he call him specifically to the church to desecrate it with a fight? And once again Yoon Sung's stupid mom comes on stage, who gave her phone to the little bastard and lost her entire budget. These days, she often disappeared for several days. She didn't give a damn about her son, how he was bullied at school. The police told her that she shouldn't have given her phone to just anyone. She came to Min Woo and asked him to give her money. Min Woo decided that he could get more money from this woman. He asked her for her phone number again and she of course gave it. He promised her that he would check all the data, but he needed money to register. Mom ran home, took all the money she had, and brought it to the impudent boy. Well done, Mom. This money was received through insurance for the treatment of my grandmother. But Mom disposed of them in her own way, and she brought 7 million won to the scammer. Min Woo gladly took advantage of the stupidity of his aunt, who herself gave him the money. Yoon Sung cried quietly in the corner of the classroom, and his mother did not find anything better than to leave her minor son completely alone and run away. She left him only a note and some change. Swim out, son, as best you can. After this, Yoon Sung never saw his mother and prayed that she would be alive. But Min Woo will still beat him and take revenge. Yoon Sung beat Min Woo with a baton in different places on his body, and he shouted that he was still praying for his mother. Min Woo fell to the floor and could not get up. Yoon Sung attacked him and began to strangle him with the sleeve of his hoodie, but Min Woo managed to escape the chokehold and stood up. He shouted that there is no evidence for Yoon Sung, and all this is the fruit of his sick mind. Yoon Sung pulled out a data storage device from his pocket, which he wrested from Cho Yong-bum. This secret book contained information that Yong-bum and Min Woo stole money from Lee Yoon Sung's family. Now Min Woo became the third, as Yoon Sung began to take revenge. He was driven to all this by anger and resentment for himself and his relatives. Yoon Sung prayed every day. That was all he had left. He removed his enemies from his path one by one, and he prayed that everything would be okay with his mother. He wanted to tell her that the loss of money was not her fault, and because of the scoundrel Min Woo. The beating in the church continued. Min Woo did not give up trying to kill Yoon Sung, but he did not succeed. Yoon Sung was prepared for any eventuality. His teacher knew a lot about jujitsu, and he taught Yoon Seong that you need to knock down such an opponent and not let him get up, because street fighting is not a sport. Min Woo went to attack Yoon Sung. He noticed a live video camera turned on. Yoon Sung prepared to repel the enemy's attack. Yoon Sung said that he called Min Woo to church because today would be his last day of prayer. Yoon Sung's teacher watched with interest what was happening in the church. The makeup artist, who was sitting in the hospital next to Joanna, also watched this. Yoon Sung suddenly threw a large mat at Min Woo. Where did he hide it? And he kicked, knocking his opponent to the floor. Now Min Woo was defenseless against Yoon Sung's rage. Yoon Sung attacked him and used a jujitsu technique, a knee lock. Min Woo could not get out of the grip. He was in severe pain. Yoon Sung was well aware that old revenge would give rise to new ones, but he had nothing to lose. He grabbed onto Min Woo like a bull terrier and had no intention of letting go. Memories of his family appeared in his mind. Min Woo shouted that he was the one who took the money. Yoon Sung's mother brought it herself. It must have been hard to live with such a stupid mother to Yoon Sung Woo. In response, Yoon Sung began to beat Min Woo even more. He went into overdrive and couldn't stop, and he kept repeating how he prayed for mommy. His accomplices watched as their friend finally went crazy, and at this tense moment, the police burst into the church. They ran up to Yoon Sung, who was standing over Min Woo's body, and arrested him. There was a news report on TV about the investigation into an unprecedented case. All of Seoul was shocked that this was happening not in the film, but for real. This is where Yoon Sung's mother appeared, who before she saw her son on TV, was not interested in what was happening to him. Yoon Sung's prayers were answered. His mother was found. At the police station, Yoon Sung was interrogated by a policeman. He found out where the guy's guardian was. Yoon Sung said that he does not have a guardian, and he reminded that minors can only be interrogated in the presence and with the permission of their parents or guardians. The policeman was very unhappy with the guy's impudence. Yoon Sung said that the police have 46 hours left before the legal time to detain him runs out. The policeman rolled his eyes in indignation. Yoon Sung said that even if it is unfair, it is the law and must be obeyed. The policeman said that all of Yoon Sung's actions were recorded and will be presented to the judge. A prison awaits him, and this is not at all like the juvenile correctional colony that Yoon Sung has already been to. Prison is much worse. The guy is lucky that he is underage. The policeman gave the employee the task of finding his guardian. He said that because of such bastards who break laws, terrible things happen. Yoon Sung remembered that everyone who bullied him in the past knew very well that they would not get anything for it. They were protected by law. Hyung Byom, who injured his sister, was given 180 hours of community service. He said that the police should enforce the laws, and also that they are doing the wrong thing. The policeman scratched his head and thought. At the hospital, doctors rushed to the patient. A celebrity was brought to their hospital. But when they entered the room, it was empty. The nurse said that the patient was transferred to another hospital. Ming-woo lay tied up on the concrete floor. The gangsters didn't ask him to do what he did. Manager Park was determined to take revenge so that this would not happen again. He said that the gang lost hundreds of millions of won because of Min-woo. Min-woo shouted that he would return all the money. He will work and asks to let him talk to the director. Puck opened a bottle of acid, and he poured it on Min-woo's face, saying that it was all over for Min-woo. The director personally demanded that the former actor's face be disfigured. While the police officer was questioning Yoon-sung, an employee ran into the office and said that they had contacted Lee Yoon-sung's parents. Yoon-sung widened his eyes in surprise. The employee continued that his mother had gone missing several years ago, but the communications department had tracked down her whereabouts. Yoon-sung was amazed at how easily the police found his mother. After she left, he contacted the police, but they said that she would probably return soon. A mother could not leave her child alone. But if she is missing, it will take a long time to find her. The policeman asked Yoon-sung, how long has it been since his mother abandoned him? He understands the guy's feelings and offers to start comfortable cooperation. The police officer said that the relatives had arrived. A man appeared on the threshold. He waved his hand friendly and asked Yoon-sung how he was doing. It was Song Jung-hwan, who Min-woo called at one time and said that Yoon-sung was taking revenge on everyone, and that soon it would be Jung-hwan's turn. He offered to unite, but Jung-hwan did not express such a desire. He was not at all afraid of the loser Yoon-sung. Yoon-sung couldn't believe it when he saw who came to him. The policeman asked who the person was to Yoon-sung. Jung-hwan replied that he was his friend. He said that he was in a hurry to get here, but while he was walking, an accident happened on the street. Some idiot was crossing the road. She shouted that she was going to the police station to get her son. Yoon-sung froze, waiting for the story to continue. Jung-hwan leaned towards Yoon-sung's ear and asked if he was interested in whether that auntie was alive or not. Yoon-sung's fourth target is Killer Song Jung-hwan. This happened a long time ago, even before Yoon-sung's life fell apart. This story is about how he lost his friend. It started when Min-woo chose Yoon-sung for his bullying. Before Yoon-sung, a crowd of boys bullied another student. They pestered him for various reasons, and often beat him just like that. The causes of bullying in childhood are not varied. It's just violence for absurd reasons. Pouring milk on the head of a child you don't like is considered normal by idiots. They feel like winners by humiliating children who are weaker than themselves. The boys could not do anything against organized bullying. There is no reason why teenagers bully other children. They just vent their anger. Therefore, there is no need to blame yourself. The victim did nothing wrong. After that day, the guys became friends. Cho Un-hyun and Lee Yoon-sun began to study together and spend time after school. They had a lot in common. Families, surroundings, hobbies. Even though everyone hated them, they were very important to each other. But the real problems began when Song Jung-hwan was transferred to their class. Immediately after his arrival, he became a thunderstorm in the class and beat everything in sight. And then he became the main offender of those who were already offended by everyone. His dogs were especially terrible, with which he used to intimidate all the children. He also poisoned his friend Yoon-sung with dogs. The guy was very afraid of dogs, especially such aggressive ones. One day, in order to escape from them, he had to jump from the roof, where he was caught by Jung-hwan and his friends. He injured his leg, but did not receive sympathy or help. Jung-hwan said that it is impossible to kill yourself by jumping from such a height. The boy was hospitalized, and Yoon-sung visited him. He asked how his friend was feeling, and how did he even decide to jump from such a height. His friend burst into tears and said that he wanted to die. He really asked Yoon-sung to help him. He grabbed his hand and asked Yoon-sung not to leave him alone. 2 weeks later, the boy came to school. His leg was still in a cast and he walked with a stick. School children surrounded him and asked how he recovered so quickly that he was able to come to school. Jung-hwan stood up from the back desk with a gloomy face. He went to the guy obviously not with good intentions, but the boy pulled out a knife and hit Jung-hwan. Yoon-sung was not in class. He was carrying from the teacher's printout. Suddenly the whole school began to move. The children ran somewhere. Yoon-sung heard screams that An-hyun stabbed Jung-hwan. There was a real massacre in the classroom. An-hyun tried to kill Jung-hwan, and he tried to defend himself. Jung-hwan defended himself with his bare hands, and they were all cut with a knife. An-hyun's face was distorted with rage. By the way, this An-hyun was the younger brother of Joanna, who later helped Yoon-sung in his revenge. Nowadays, when Jung-hwan began to quietly threaten Yoon-sung, He promised that he would tear him to pieces. He laughed and asked how he plans to do this. Yoon Sung has to sit for 2 more days, so he can watch what Young Hwan will do. He turned to the detective and asked him to do everything to prevent Yoon Sung from leaving the station ahead of time. Otherwise, the detective will have problems. The detective was indignant at this tone, but his assistant stopped him. He whispered something in the detective's ear, was very surprised and asked if it was true, and the assistant confirmed it. The detective fell silent. Jung Hwan went to the exit, turned to Yoon Sung and said, "Look from the inside at what I will do on the outside." Yoon Sung should remember what the results were last time. Now everything will be no worse. And Young Hwan left. In the past, Yoon Sung tried to help his friend. In a survey about school violence, he honestly wrote that Song Jung Hwan bullied Jo and Hyun and forced him to jump off the roof. Then he still believed in justice and thought that he could help his friend. But people appeared who quickly decided everything as they needed, and an order appeared that An Hyun would be suspended from school. The most serious punishment is applied to him, and he is sent to a correctional boarding school. In class, those who bullied An Hyun happily discussed that now his life would be ruined forever. Hyun Sung visited his friend at the correctional boarding school, and Hen said that he liked it here. It was better than at school. They all live in separate rooms, and because he came for a serious crime, no one bothers him. Hyun Sung told his friend that no one bothers him at school either, because everyone became quiet after An Hyun's attack. They both lied to each other so as not to upset each other. Of course, everything was not so wonderful. Because Yoon Sung honestly wrote down in the questionnaire how Jung Hwat behaved, he severely beat him. He shouted that his father worked as a judge, and did Yoon Sung really think that Jung Hwan wouldn't know what someone wrote? And no matter who the school children complain about him, his father will always get him out, and those who complain will get into trouble. The child of law enforcement officers can afford whatever he wants. Life in the boarding school was very difficult for An Hyun. Everyone knew that he stabbed Young Hwan, and they beat him up for it. One day, during morning roll call, An Hyun was found hanged. His cellmate said that when they woke up, everything was already like that. Currently, the detective looked at Yoon Sung thoughtfully and asked if he was definitely friends with the chief judge's son at school. Yoon Sung asked the detective to let him go. The detective said that the minor can only be released with an accompanying person until the end of the investigation. We must wait for his mother. Jung Hwan was walking down the street and talking on the phone that this loser will not come out soon. While the escort was away, the detective asked Yoon Sung, "Is all this happening because of school bullying?" So the guy was committing retribution. Yoon Sung thought that if this was ordinary revenge, then nothing in the world would have changed. The detective suggested that he write his version of what happened today. Yoon Sung urgently needed to leave the station, and he injured his hand and said that he urgently needed to go to the hospital. The detective yelled for an ambulance. Official children who think that everything is allowed to them, such as the bastard Song Young Hwan, must disappear so that our world can live in peace. Yoon Sung came to these conclusions. Yoon Sung's mother went to her son, whom she abandoned at the most difficult time for him. The policeman said that she must fill out a guardianship form in order to see Yoon Sung. The mother immediately began to merge, muttering that she had no right to be called a mother. She would have loved to run away, but people approached her and identified her as Yoon Sung's mother. The head of the Juvenile Justice Research Commission, Im Young Geum, sternly told her that they would need her help, for the benefit of Lee Yoon Sung. The mother had no choice but to agree. Jung Hwan was sure that idiot Yoon Sung was not acting alone. He looked through the contact list of his former classmates and thought about who could help Yoon Sung. Is it really An Hyun's sister Joanna? He now remembered that that loser had a sister. He decided to call Min Woo to see if he remembered this sister. Ming Woo was in very bad condition. His face was disfigured and he dreamed of revenge. He wanted revenge even if he died. Young Hwan heard him. He said he would help take revenge. He asked if Min Woo knew where An Hyun's sister was. Now Yoon Sung will be trusted by the media. He will inflame the situation, and we need to bring him down to earth and leave the worst fate for Yoon Sung. At the hospital, Yoon Sung's hand was bandaged, and the detective told him not to do it again. Yoon Sung did not listen to the policeman. The most important thing now was Joanna's safety. Song Young Hwan will definitely not leave her alone. Her life is in danger. Yoon Sung foresaw everything. He dealt with Min Woo in the Sangjeon church, next to the Sangjeon police station. And after he made a fuss, he was taken to the nearest hospital where Joanna was lying. Yoon Sung and the girl were on different floors of the same hospital. And although the chamber is guarded by Kwon, the danger is still great. We must not let our guard down. Their enemy is very formidable. Kwon was ready to guard the girl to prove his sincerity and loyalty. Some figures appeared on the threshold of the girl's room. Yoon Sung received a message that something very bad is starting. He realized that Song Young Hwan had begun to act. Yoon Sung told the police that he was hungry and they should bring him something to eat. The detective went to buy food and ordered his partner to keep an eye on Yoon Sung. At this time, he received a call saying that Yoon Sung's mother had arrived. She needs to be immediately brought to the hospital where her son is sitting. The detective was very happy that he would throw this idiot into his mother's arms and go home. When he returned to the room with food, he saw that his partner was lying unconscious and Yoon Sung was missing. He brought his partner to his senses, and he said that everything happened very quickly. Yoon Sung rushed through the corridors of the hospital as fast as he could. He ran into Joanna's room and saw that the doctors had just gathered there for a consultation and were thinking about how best to treat her. The makeup artist said that bad things did happen. It was reported on the news that Shin Min-woo, the star who was involved in the agency incident, made an extreme decision today. From his point of view, everything was unfair, and in this way he defended his honor. Yoon Sung broke down. Now all the sympathies of society were on Min-woo's side. Jung Hwan had a hand in this decision and advised Min-woo such a way out. He said that the actor would not be able to recover, and this was the best decision. Jung Hwan committed this crime and became a murderer. Yoon Sung thought that his opponent this time was a real devil in the flesh. Yoon Sung was confident that he would win this time too. The police were also not sure that everything was so simple with Shin Min-woo. According to the examination, he was most likely killed. All police units began searching for the killer, and he just laughed at everyone. The main suspect was Lee Yoon Sung. The police came to the room to arrest him. They saw that he was dangerous after he knocked out his guard and escaped. They rushed into the room, but Lee Yoon Sung was not there. Although they tracked his location using video cameras, the police began to interrogate Kwon, but he immediately stopped understanding Korean. The police searched the room, but Kwon remained stubbornly and stupidly silent. He was stalling for time, to give Yoon Sung time to escape. The guy ran through the night streets of Seoul. The situation was not in his favor now. He is now on the list of suspects and the police are looking for him. Public opinion is far from being on his side. He is a murder suspect. Meanwhile, there were discussions on TV about the law on minors, because of which they feel completely unpunished. This is where bullying and abuse come from. Chung Hwan listened to experts who said that now few people take the side of the weak, the chosen ones do not need justice, and got down to business. He fed his dogs. Yoon Sung, of course, tried to attract public attention to the incident with his friend. He wrote on the internet how everything happened, but no one believed him, and many commentators wrote that someone who spread such slander on the internet should be given a hard time. Yoon Sung needed to draw people's attention to violence. The line between good and evil had to be clear. At the same time, many scandals arose with the stars, and no one noticed Yoon Sung's attempts. It was a very strange time for Yoon Sung. Chung Hwan thought that Koreans were very easy to fool. They would remain silent when they were oppressed and attack the weak, and the police will catch Lee Yoon Sung soon. But to his surprise, the police came to him. They had evidence that Jung Hwan was with Min-woo at the time of his death. They had a recording of their last conversation. The evidence was irrefutable. Since Yoon Sung's accomplices stuffed listening and snooping devices into all of Min-woo's gadgets, which is illegal, they obtained a recording of the last conversation. Lee Yoon Sung is no longer the loser everyone bullied. He has grown up and now he can bully everyone himself. This is how he was raised by his family and school, and by the same Jung Hwan. Killer Song Jung Hwan lost. Yoon Sung walked down the street and muttered that this is not the end. His revenge will end when Song Jung Hwan dies. This is just the beginning of Song Jung Hwan's destruction. The police had received all the information and were preparing to arrest Jung Hwan. At this time, a group of people in business suits hurried towards them. The head of the group thanked the detective for his excellent work, gave him my business card and told him that they are the legal representatives of Song Jung Hwan. Choi Woo-jin is a representative of a law firm. Yoon Sung knew very well who Song Jung Hwan's father was. The bastards who have money and connections to back them up will never believe that it's all over for them when they get caught by the police. The lawyer said that Mr. Song Jung Hwan is now under the protection of their law firm. Now they will answer all questions themselves, and Song Jung Hwan must remain silent. Jung Hwan walked past the police officers onto the street. The detective tried to catch up with him, but the lawyer blocked his way and offered to talk. The detective replied that there was nothing to talk about. The police had a recording of everything that happened. The law on maintaining the secrecy of communications was violated. It is unlikely that Song Jung Hwan consented to being wiretapped, so the recording cannot be used as evidence. The detective recalled that according to the new law, recording one-on-one conversations does not violate the law. The lawyer doubted whether there was someone else there who was silent the whole time. Let them prove that they were together at the time of recording. The detective saw that Song Jung Hwan might leave because of this legal incident. At the law firm, Jung Hwan was very angry and threw chairs all over the office. Choi Woo-jin put his hand on his shoulder and asked him to calm down. and then he received a punch in the face from a nervous client. Colleagues ran to raise their injured boss. Choi Woo-jin said, holding his nose, that Jung Hwan's father ordered him to stay in the place he prepared for him. Jung Hwan sent both lawyers and his own dad to a well-known address. He will do anything to take revenge. Choi Woo-jin asked if the guy would kill again. Jung Hwan is now a suspect in Min Woo's murder case. The lawyers will be able to get him out of it, but if he does something else, the prosecutor's office may run out of patience. Don't touch the bastard Yoon Sung with your own hands. They will take care of everything themselves. Yoon Seong knew Jung Hwan very well and understood that he would begin to take revenge on his assistants. He had to make an important move, and he did it. He came to the law office. Less than a day had passed before they met again. Ignoring the lawyers, Lee Yoon Sung punched Jung Hwan in the face with all his heart. The lawyers shouted that the consequences for Yoon Sung would be severe. Yoon Sung hoped that Jung Hwan would not be able to respond to his unexpected appearance. He hit Jung Hwan again, but he dodged the blow, and he successfully threw a chair at Yoon Sung's head. The blow hit the target, sending Yoon Sung flying against the wall. Then office supplies flew towards Yoon Sung. Scissors, pens, pencils. Jung Hwan kicks Yoon Sung in the head. Yoon Sung managed to block this blow with his hands. He grabbed Jung Hwan by the clothes, blocked his hand, and jumped into a grip. Now Jung Hwan was firmly fixed and could not move. He could only scream in impotent anger. Lawyers ran to the scene of the fight. Yoon Sung said that he wants him and Jung Hwan to be taken to the police station. The police will be glad to have both of them come to them. The murder investigation will go much faster in this case. News on YouTube will skyrocket people's interest. And at that moment, the lawyers realized that under no circumstances should the police be involved. Police, evidence, media, public interest, they have a lot to take care of. Song Jung Hwan's father told lawyer Choi Woo-jin in a private conversation that there is not much time left before the election begins. He's running for office, and a lot of people are watching him. Therefore, all problems must be resolved quickly and quietly. The lawyer realized that from the very beginning, this brat had calculated his every move before acting. Yoon Sung said that if the lawyer understood everything correctly, then let him leave and not watch how he will turn Jung Hwan into a disabled person. Jung Hwan's father, a congressman, complained that his son was nothing but trouble. Today's problem is school violence, but everything must be decided without attracting public attention. Lawyer Choi shouted that Yoon Sung will be prosecuted, but Yoon Sung clung to his victim like a tick and did not react to the lawyer's words. The main thing is that this does not become known to the public. Everything must be quiet. The lawyer shouted to his staff to leave. He wondered what this bastard wanted. Maybe money. Yoon Sung turned around and said that he could guess what the lawyer was thinking, but he was wrong. At this time, police with weapons burst into the law office. The detective ordered Yoon Sung to immediately release Jung Hwan and surrender. Lawyer Choi sternly asked his people why they called the police. They replied that no orders came from their superiors, and they acted according to the rules. The detective fired a shot into the air and said that the next bullet would go straight to Yoon Sung. Yoon Sung leaned towards Jung Hwan and promised that he would finish him off. He said that his revenge would end when he killed him, after which he raised his hands and surrendered to the authorities. The police arrested Lee Yoon Sung and took him away. The entire internet was full of news about Lee Yoon Sung. Even the police watched videos about him. The detective said that Lee Yoon Sung is a suspect in a murder case. All of his personal information is now known to everyone. The detective asked why Lee Yoon Sung didn't upload the recording from Min Woo's phone to the internet, but sent it to the police. Yoon Sung said that Song Jung Hwan should not be punished by the public. His story is not over yet. He must answer for his crimes differently. Yoon Sung was brought to the station from which he had recently left. The detective said that Yoon Sung had contacted a very influential family, and the authorities were already putting pressure on the detective. Yoon Sung replied that he knows it will be difficult, but he agrees to everything. The detective removed Yoon Sung's handcuffs, and he said that his mother was here, and it was better to meet with her without handcuffs. Yoon Sung approached the door and did not believe that his long-gone mother was in this room. The mother he missed so much. He opened the door and saw that Im Jung-geum, the head of the Juvenile Justice Research Commission, was sitting in the room. He turned and said that he had been waiting for Lee Yoon Sung for a long time. Yoon Sung asked where his mother was, but she crept up behind him and hugged her son with her arms. "And here comes Mommy." Yoon Sung was very happy about the family reunion. Now no one can take Yoon Sung's family away.